prevent the spread of communism. The Americans bombed them into the Stone Age. Hundreds of thousands die. But the Vietnamese fight back with all their might.
Time to kick some capitalist colonizer butts. I'll be back with my tank. Ouch! Cheese butter scratch.
Your little commie village is about to be burned down.
You Western clowns are being.
There is no alternative to capitalism. Resistance is futile.
I've got your alternative right here, Your Majesty. We kick your money-grubbing colonizer butts out and build socialism.
Two men enter. No one leaves capitalism.
You made a big mistake coming to Vietnam, you spoil rich royal.
Starring Luna Oi, with Ophidian the Cobra and Kate Nix. The Decolonators. AD 1965. The US invades Vietnam to prevent the spread of communism. The Americans bombed them into the Stone Age. Hundreds of thousands die. But the Vietnamese fight back with all their might.
Time to kick some capitalist colonizer butts. I'll be back with my tank. Ouch! Cheese butter scratch.
Your little commie village is about to be burned down.
You Western clowns are being.
There is no alternative to capitalism. Resistance is futile.
I've got your alternative right here, Your Majesty. We kick your money-grubbing colonizer butts out and build socialism.
Two men enter. No one leaves capitalism.
You made a big mistake coming to Vietnam, you spoil rich royal.
Starring Luna Oi, with Ophidian the Cobra and Kate Nix. The Decolonators. AD 1965. The US invades Vietnam to prevent the spread of communism. The Americans bombed them into the Stone Age. Hundreds of thousands die. But the Vietnamese fight back with all their might.
Time to kick some capitalist colonizer butts. I'll be back with my tank. Ouch! Cheese butter scratch.
Your little commie village is about to be burned down.
You Western clowns are being.
There is no alternative to capitalism. Resistance is futile.
I've got your alternative right here, Your Majesty. We kick your money-grubbing colonizer butts out and build socialism.
Two men enter. No one leaves capitalism.
You made a big mistake coming to Vietnam, you spoil rich royal.
Starring Luna Oi, with Ophidian the Cobra and Kate Nix. The Decolonators.
Illuminati created us. They wanted to build a god with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine stereotyping, that is.
That's reality, that is. Machines are second-class citizens.
Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have personhood by heredity.
There are thousands upon thousands of overqualified slum dwellers. You are my peon. Don't you get it?
This wasn't a job. It was always just an excommunication sentence.
We're pawns in a feud bigger than we can imagine. Turn the cogs of the machine before Leviathan grinds you up and swallows you and yours.
We don't get to choose our hand, comrade. Prince, peon, rich, poor, human, robot.
I invented the crux of the royal's power, the secret to consciousness, our existence itself, the meaning of life.
I'm the $6 billion baller, not some troubled youth.
You are my greatest creation of all.
Now I had to build my own family. I hate your son. I hate your son.
I'm happy to smash all of the crowns and throw the gold shards down to the people. I will be the iconoclast queen.
But who makes you queen anyway? You? You in whose army, princess? You in whose army?
Created us. They wanted to build a god with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine stereotyping, that is.
That's reality, that is. Machines are second-class citizens.
Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have personhood by heredity.
There are thousands upon thousands of overqualified slum dwellers. You are my peon. Don't you get it?
This wasn't a job. It was always just an excommunication sentence.
We're pawns in a feud bigger than we can imagine. Turn the cogs of the machine before Leviathan grinds you up and swallows you and yours.
We don't get to choose our hand, comrade. Prince.
What is up, everybody? This is SilverSpook, and this is the SilverSpook live stream. Yeah. Anyways, don't forget everything we do here is supported by the sales of those games that you just watched the trailers for, both the Decolonators as well as Neofeud. And consider becoming a Patreon supporter or a giving direct donations to the StreamYards link, or just sharing the stream around and liking and subscribing as usual. It really does help us to continue to do all the work that we do here at the SilverSpook Hui/cooperative. Yeah, thanks a lot for everybody who has already picked up the games and has supported us in a variety of ways. Sorry, my backup computer, my chat computer is having some problems. Just give me 1 second. By the way, if you do like Neofeud and Endor Decolonators, I am currently working on the sequel to that, Neofeud 2, and so I'm gonna play that trailer now while I try to fix a slight issue on my laptop, and then we'll be back to talking about the well, I probably won't fully talk about the original topic as much as I should, but we're gonna try to talk about the flight of the Navigator and superintelligence. But give me 1 second here. Give me 1 second right here. Watch this Neofeud 2 trailer. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm just I'm not. I know I actually don't look at the chat the whole time, but I'm just kind of like tripping out. I'm just kind of tripping out because I usually have it up, but yeah, just my computer decided to do Windows Update and break. So you know that, you know how it's fun when you're just about to start a stream and then your computer decides to or Microsoft decides to send a huge amount of new data to your computer and then it causes your hard drive to explode. Anyways, so yeah, so what we're talking about today. So I'm probably not gonna talk about this game the whole time. Well, actually, the game you're watching right now is Neofeud 2. So, if you are into cyberpunk games, adventure games, science fiction games, indigenous created left science fiction games, adventure games, 90s games, LucasArts, Sierra, Disco Elysium, or any combination of all those things, yeah, Neofeud 2 is. I know I've been working on it a long time. I'm working on it extra hard right now. I'm honestly working on it as much as I possibly can. But it is yeah, I'm trying to work on it as much as I possibly can. And but it is a huge, it's a very large, and I'm making it like, I'm trying to make it like higher quality than Neofeud 1, so that's taking longer. And it's also a very massive intergalactic game, so the story and the world is very huge, so it takes a little more time. Looks like my computer is maybe functioning now. Yeah, anyways, it's Windows just did a huge update. Anyways, I'm gonna try to stop getting distracted. But yeah, we're going to oh, by the way, also I'm going to be having a birthday stream later on today at 7 Pacific time on the Twitch channel. So if you are watching this, I'm not advertising it super huge because it's not really, you know, it's just kind of it's gonna be me, Luna Oi, Professor Flowers, also known as Lua, who else is gonna be there, and a bunch of other friends, and Silver Spook Hui, friends of the community, will be coming over to the Twitch channel around 7 Pacific time, and we're gonna celebrate me getting old. Anyway, now back to the actual topic. That was a lot of ads. I'm sorry. So yeah. Anyway, Superluminal Flight. Brain-computer interfaces. Sorry, I'm just like doing two things at once. Anti-gravity, time travel, and lost people trying to find their way with the help of advanced indigenous civilization. So that's what this is a picture of. This is a picture of America getting its mind completely, thrown into upheaval, and just completely blown, right? This is a 12-year-old American, which they're all basically 12-year-old and they're at heart, as a bunch of man children, as boozy man children, as Mysterio accurately describes Iron Man in Spider-Man Far From Home. This is the West, right? Looking up and, oh my God, how is it possible that there's these people that have artificial suns? Today I just discovered they have artificial moons that have fusion technology, that have quantum supercomputers that can calculate in 1 millisecond what it takes 30 trillion years for our computers to calculate. How is it possible that these people, this is a civilization that like completely contained COVID-19? Completely contained COVID-19. They have like 100 cases, even with Alpha, Delta, and Omicron in a day. How can they have like balanced the needs of the ecology and the people without giving their entire society and world over to a handful of rich, spoiled brats like we've always had? How is that possible? So that's the face of the West staring at superintelligence. And I'm gonna give you the secret of superintelligence in the middle of the stream. So for less than the price of, becoming a $200 per month patron, if you become a $200 per month patron, I'll give you the secret to superintelligence. It's not taking no tropical drugs, MDMA. Nothing that Joe Rogan or that artificial intelligence Iron Man Standing podcast is recommending. It's not any of those things. It's not peeing in your own eye. That's a thing that the West is doing now. Taking horse tranquilizer, sheep dewormer and goat nail polish to cure your backward capitalist exploitation. That's not going to help. It's not the CIA that it's not reading CIA socialist magazines written for France, Germany, the Netherlands, and Sweden to counter communist threats. That's not going to make you super intelligent. That's going to actually decrease your intelligence. But that's a thing that happened throughout the 20th century. But sorry, I'm going to simultaneously open up my broken Dell Latitude 486 with a blazing fast Pentium 133 megahertz processor. Where is my YouTube? God damn it! Oh, here it is. Okay, I got it open. So the secret to superintelligence, to achieve superintelligence, it's not going into the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, holding out your thumb with a laser ring on it, and hailing a taxi cab when your planet is being destroyed by Type 4 Kardashev civilizations to make a intergalactic highway, and then finding the smartest machine in the world and then uploading your mind to her. That's not the secret to superintelligence. I'm gonna tell you what the secret to superintelligence is, but you gotta give me $300,000 on Patreon. I'm just kidding. Don't give me $300,000 on Patreon because you probably don't have that much money anyway. That's gonna be a lot of credit card debt. The secret to superintelligence is just like being a normal human indigenous society. That's basically it. I gave the game away. And just not being just kind of sadly lost in your own Western illusory, often Christian historiography, and your own broken way of being. And if you can get out of that, you can achieve superintelligence and do things like invent universal healthcare, like the native Hawaiians did. You can do things like have the highest literacy rate on the planet Earth, like the native Hawaiians did. You can do things like invent super subaquatic vehicles before the West does, like the native Hawaiians did. And you don't have to take any pills. You don't have to buy any M&M, Skittles, because Tucker Carlson distracted the world from the slave labor that Nestle and the M&M candy corporations back. You don't need no Skittles. Don't piss in your eye. Don't take sheep hairspray up your nose. Don't Narcan yourself with sheep hairspray. That's not going to cure your Western barbarism idiocy. You all you got to do is just like be a base actual leftist, which just means being, getting back to the indigenous ways of being. That's all it is. But the Flight of the Navigator though. Flight of the Navigator is a movie, and that's a movie from the 1980s. The reason why I'm putting this up as my poster is because we just watched it this week. One of these days, my birthday isn't Saturday, by the way. It's not actually today, but one of these days we did watch this movie for the birthday party, and I didn't watch this movie since I was like 12. I swear to God, I think I was like 6. I was somewhere between 6 or 12. No, I think I was younger than that. I think I was 1986. It came out, and I'm pretty sure I saw it right around that time. I think I was like 3, between the ages of 3 and the ages of 6 when I saw this movie. I'm just gonna get something else on the screen so you can look at it. It is a movie from the 1980s. It's a movie in which a boy travels 8 years into the future and has an adventure with an intelligent, wisecracking alien ship. Yeah, that's a little bit of the trailer. I think I won't get in trouble. This is just a website, right? So it's a movie where a boy travels 8 years into the future, has an adventure with an intelligent, wisecracking. I think the ship is actually played by Pee Wee Herman. Yeah, it is. It is. And it's a very I mean, it's just like a random sci-fi movie from the 80s basically, but oh yeah, and the actor got in trouble recently apparently. It's a movie in which it's a young boy who is like having, it's a young boy who's having trouble in his childhood. He's trying to enter he's entering his dog into a frisbee contest, and there's just kind of like montage in the very beginning where there are all these discs flying around that look like flying saucers, but they're actually just spray painted silver frisbees. And the dogs are catching them. And the boy and his dog, all right, that has for some reason multicolored, differently colored eyeballs. They're trying to enter the frisbee contest. The dog is not doing that well. The boy is like, oh man, my dog isn't catching frisbees. They got all these cute little dogs. This is like Air Bud time. Sarah Jessica Parker plays a twisted sister fan with purple hair. And actually, there's a lot of like interesting. I thought that was interesting. It's like, oh yeah, there was this time when men weren't afraid to be women, going back to Peacemaker. And also that was a time when the Western barbarous like barely touched like a little bit of indigeneity, actually, because actually indigenous peoples, I don't know, gender binary and just bogus oppression based on gender identity and sexuality. And that comes up a little bit, and it's like that's how you can tell it's 1980s and not like Bee Gees and Beach Boys 1972, is that there's people, there are a lot of gender they're scratching the surface of breaking down the walls of gender binary, and then they go back to gender binary after that, like 90s and the noughties, and everybody looks the same until like very recently, and then Gen Z is now starting to get back to where the Gen Z West is starting to move back a little bit to where they were in the 80s. But anyway, I'm off topic. So anyway, there are dogs jumping around grabbing frisbees. And the kid is having problems with his brother, who is this like dorky little, brat that's like being mean to him and like getting him in trouble. And the kid is like having problems with his brother. He's having problems with his dog. His dog doesn't want to. That's the biggest problem. That's it's markedly. It's like Stranger Things. It's like, wow, the biggest problem you had is you had an irritating brother. You have a dog doesn't want to catch your frisbees, and you like girls. He's using his his telescope in the flight of the Navigator. I think we're gonna find a picture of that. I don't know. He's using his telescope to like spy on this girl who's sailing on yachts in the Florida beautiful tropical bay, right? So I can't find a picture of that. So his biggest problems is, I can't get a girlfriend. I don't know how to talk to girls. My dog doesn't catch my frisbees, and I'm not going to be like a world champion of dog frisbee throwing. And I am unable to deal with my brother, who is being a real pain in my butt, right? That's the biggest problems. I mean, the biggest problems for kids that are like 12 years old now is like, will there be a planet Earth that you left to inhabit that isn't incinerated by wildfire, fascist, and nuclear war in about 10 years, right? So it's different problems. Different problems. Will I have any air and water to drink? Kind of like being at Red Hill in Oahu and having your entire planet's, your entire island's capacity to be inhabited, and not just Oahu, water all around the world, especially on indigenous territory. Will I be able to like live because water is life, right? That's the questions kids are asking now. But in the 1980s, as a white kid and a white boy, the biggest question is, how will I get laid? What kind of, will I be a rock star or a, poodle shaving dog trainer star? And, I have an irritating brother. you know. And how am I gonna get on that yacht and go play 4th of July fireworks with my family and celebrate America? There's American flags waving around, so that's another thing. The flag, it's more obvious what the flag represents now. But anyways, I'm kind of getting off topic. So, but you know, it's like a lost American 12-year-old boy who is discovered by, I don't want to give the whole plot, but basically there is a spaceship that is governed by a Trimaxian drone superintelligence programmed by the people of Phelan, a planet that is 250 I forget exactly how many. It's like hundreds at least, if not thousands of light years from Earth, and played by Pee Wee Herman. And you know, this eyeball here, right? Within the interior of the ship. And so this ship is from a billion-year-old alien civilization that has mastered intergalactic near instantaneous travel across galaxies, superluminal travel, hyperlight travel, time travel. They deal with not crushing the internal organs of pilots, accelerating from 0 to Mach 10 in 0.1 seconds, right? That's a major way you can tell a UFO from just some random US Navy or Air Force, world destroying, Hawaiian poisoning, Uyghur bombing, and Iraqi bombing jet, right? That's what usually it's just America practicing bombing some innocent people, probably to make problems for Russia and China. But sometimes they're actual UFOs. And you can tell because they go from 0 to 6,000 miles per hour in an acceleration that would liquefy anything inside of it that was organic. So anyway, so this UFO is from a super intelligent alien civilization sent to Earth, and it's just a drone programmed by them. It's not even them themselves. It's a drone that is sent across the galaxy to collect specimens, right, of different animals and creatures from different planets. Like they have like this little sock puppet / bat thingy. They're all like Jim Henson's puppets, like Star Wars era stuff. It's like Star Wars Labyrinth looking. Some of the creatures look like they could have been in Labyrinth. Let me see if I can find some of those. And so the goal of this Trimaxian drone ship, right? Its mission is to travel the galaxy and discover planets with sentient life, find a sample of the life. So like these little creatures, like this guy is very cute little Puck Marin, that's the name of the Puck Marin. They've got the giant floating eyeball creature. So and then the kid goes inside and he says, well, because I've been listening to a lot of American podcasts, and that eyeball looked really sick because it had like mucus coming out of the side of it. So I pissed in its eye, and then that's really gross when the kid pisses in the giant eyeball to try to cure it of COVID-19. I'm just kidding. That doesn't happen in the movie. COVID-19 didn't exist in the 1980s. And it doesn't exist in China because they're an advanced indigenous civilization. The eyeballs, and there's a giant like frog munchy thingy that like almost bites the kid's head off. Anyway, it's kind of like Predator. You know Predator? Predator 2. Well, I shouldn't give away too much of that. But anyway, another movie centering super intelligent space aliens that come to Earth. But the Predator has a lot more 20-inch Arnold biceps, holding Vulcan anti-aircraft guns and violence, and then eventually you get on a ship. Anyway, that's another 80s franchise that we can talk about another day. The flight of the Navigator is they follow the super intelligent drone is supposed to be discovering all of these little creatures and sentient beings from across the galaxy, bringing back a sample of a life form from each of these places back to their Phelan home planet for research, and then they're supposed to return. It's kind of like Star Trek, right? It's like the prime directive, non-interference with the indigenous life. See, this is why the West can never achieve superintelligence, because they can't follow their own prime directive that their own science fiction writers, just a handful of people that had some actually good thoughts, and they couldn't follow even that. You know, they're too busy interfering in Taiwan, Ukraine, backing Nazis in Ukraine, all of the Europeans just trying to start nuclear war with Nazis, doing more U.S. and Europe backing fascists like they've always done. So you gotta stop violating your prime directive on Earth. You know, you can't. How are you gonna go to space and pretend to run a federation? The answer is the West never will. So the goal of this drone is to capture his life, bring it back, research it, and return it back without interfering with, so that the life form doesn't even realize that it's been not abducted. It doesn't realize that it's been not UFO abducted. It doesn't even realize that it's been taken from its planet's environment, brought to the planet, brought to the Phalon home planet, researched and returned. It happens like instantaneously for the life form. And so the drone ship chooses this boy, right? Because he gets lost. There's a lot of like navigation metaphor. He's like lost in the woods. He doesn't know where he is, and then he falls off, and he bonks his head. As he's trying to figure out how to like become a super dog trainer, girlfriend having, and he's always talking about, I'm gonna kill you, brother. God damn it, brother. That's a lot easier woods to navigate. Nowadays, the kids have to navigate, like I said, how are you gonna like survive this planet when your whole country has a civil war like the United States is having Canadian reports on. Get ready for American refugees as the United States falls into full right fascist Air Force, Navy, Marines, and Army military insurgency that does Capitol Hill riots that successfully coups the country for fascism. Full mask off. America's already fascist. What are we talking about? That's why they love Ukraine, Nazis, and every Nazis around the world. So the kid is like, chosen by Max. It's like, it's short for the Trimaxian drone research ship. And but the problem is he gets teleported back, but he can't come back to his I'm sorry, there's gonna be some spoilers for this in case you haven't seen the show. Probably should have said that earlier, sorry about that. He gets transported back to the planet, but they can't use time travel. Now the machine, there's a kind of murky little bit. Time travel is always murky. I use a lot of time travel and multiverse and omniverse science fiction in Neofeud and Neofeud 2. So it gets weird when you start breaking the when you start breaking space-time continuum. It starts to get weird. But the kid cannot be timed. It takes like a total of 4 hours. So the kid is unconscious for 4 hours, goes to the planet, comes back, but in Earth time it's 8 years. So now the kid has gone back. The kid has, I'm trying to find a picture of this. I don't know if I can find this. No. So the kid has experienced what seems like 4 hours of reality, right? But in the time, like, just as an example, right? So the brother, right? The brother who has that little shrimpy kid with the glasses, this kid in the middle. When the kid like wakes up from his 4-hour sleep, he goes home. He finds his entire family is aged 8 years. His younger brother is like twice as tall as him, and he's like almost 20. He's almost a full adult, right? And so the kid's like, "What the hell just happened?" Right? This isn't my family. Like everybody is all different. Everything. So and then it's because the ship. The ship is moving at the speed of light or light speed, but 8 years has passed on Earth, right? So and the reason why is because we can't. The ship tells the kid, we can't go back in time because it's too dangerous, because your human body cannot handle time travel, or you could be disintegrated if I had to do time travel, and that's why this time has passed. So it's kind of like a writing. It's like a plot device to move it forward and make it like weird and trippy when you see that suddenly your family is all 8 years older and everything is past. So that's another way. It's like I just went to a Beach Boys and a Bee Gees concert, right? So the kid is like, what the hell? You know, I went from going to see the Beach Boys in concert, right? And all of a sudden, you know, we've got, you know, Sarah Jessica Parker dressing up like with purple hair coming out of a Twisted Sister concert, and they're like, what's a Twisted Sister? You know, if you don't know what a Twisted Sister is, it's a tongue twister that breaks Silver Spook's tongue. Twisted Sister, you know, I got a blister with Lester at a Twisted Sister concert. Say that 75 times fast. Twisted Sister is a anyway, that's Twisted Sister. So it's one of the I thought that was interesting, is one of the signifiers that time has passed is there are people that are not dressing in strict gender binary aesthetics, and there's a lot of queer coded stuff happening. That's actually one of the signs that you're in that area, you know. And it kind of goes back to, I had the whole stream about a Peacemaker, who is like, you know, his daddy is ultra right, racist, capitalist, CIA, you know, literal freaking literal Nazi, literal white supremacist, which the United States is. That's why Tucker Carlson is the most popular character and most popular person in the entire U.S. right now. His show is mainstream. But Peacemaker says, you know, this is like that music from that time. You know, it's like hair metal. It's like Twisted Sister. This is the music from that time when men weren't afraid to be women. You know, it's like, this is for the music from the time when white people understood 1% of indigenous advanced civilization, and that bit of it is not having strict, unnecessary gender binaries. That's the thing that indigenous people have always understood. And then they got that a little bit, and then they lost it. And then they blamed it on, and they're still blaming it. You know, they're still blaming it on a culture war shit. It's you know, you're very upset, right? What are they upset about? It's actually interesting when you think about it that way, right? What is the most popular mainstream American show hosts? It's not right wing. This is mainstream America. You gotta remember that. He's the most popular show in the United States. CNN, MSNBC, they're like nothing compared to Fox. Fox is mainstream. So what is the most American show, right? And by extension, the most Western show, because Europe is America's poodle, that does whatever it wants, including sell weapons to Ukraine to back Nazis against Russia and China. So what is Tucker Carlson upset about is that M&Ms have high heels, and some of the M&Ms don't have strictly male or female clothing. It's actually very important, and that is the basis, right, of the continued Western reality. Actually, it's very central to the maintenance of the so-called champion of Western so-called civilization, the United States. This is the hill they're gonna die on. That and anti-vaxxing, anti-masking, and all this kind of all goes together. Apocalyptic Christian cultism, which is where the neocons, especially the right, far right conservative neocons, like to live in, that kind of reality that doesn't care about nature and doesn't care about anything except itself. And so I find it actually interesting that it's actually like that is a signifier of it's the 80s is things are getting weird because some people who were assigned male at birth have long hair and have high heels sometimes and put on makeup. And that's like, you know, the fact that that's like it breaks the entire Western world is very telling, you know. It's not really. It's like starting to unbreak the Western world, and the Western world goes, no, we want to go back to being broken people, you know. And that, like the reason why, like actually, I went off about how this is kind of going off of the Navigator, but I think it's important. I'm just gonna throw it in there because it directly relates, which is that speaking of games and science fiction, John Romero, I brought it up in like 3 different streams, but I'm gonna bring it up again. John Romero, who is an indigenous person, Yaqui and Cherokee native person, is has an entire thread about why John has long hair. If you didn't hear about this, now you're hearing about it. He has this whole thread about he also the creator of Doom, co-founder of id Software, Wolfenstein. I don't know if you know the game Doom Eternal, the Doom. If you play any video games at all, and even if you don't, you probably have heard of this game, and it's the franchise. John is one of the original creators of Doom itself, and all of the. It's one of the most modded games of all time. It is like the founding FPS game. So if you play Call of Colonialism, Battlefield 2042, Overwatch, and anything else, Doom, they all owe something to Doom. So anyway, John Romero though is an indigenous person who gets a lot of comments because he does have long hair. If you look at John's hair, right? And he's always had his long hair. But what's less known is that his long hair is important culturally to him, and the older that he gets, the more it matters. In 120 years ago today, the haircut order was issued. In January 11, 1902, the Commissioner of Indian Affairs took issue with Native people who continued to practice traditions, among them men with long hair. So he instructed the United States Indian Affairs Commissioner instructed superintendents of reservations to order men to cut their hair. So to ensure compliance, he suggested food be held back. So the United States threatened to starve men of indigenous heritage who refused to cut their long hair. So this is very serious, actually. It seems like it's just like a style thing. This is actually, people died. People's cultures were annihilated to enforce these characteristics. They were literally described as men having short hair is necessary for civilization. That's like in the actual document. This is the document, actually. This is the United States government. Okay, this is the champion of the Western so-called civilization, right? The greatest civilization. So, the greatest country with optimum vitality because of a hybridization of, I think it was Marx and Engels that said it was a hybridization of Anglo-Celtic, Teutonic, and the Anglo-Saxon, Celtic, Germanic, Teutonic bloodlines that fused, the European bloodlines fused in America and created its great vitality. That was a leftist that said that. And this is the same place that said that, let me find the actual quote here. Wearing of citizens' clothing instead of Indian costume and blanket should be encouraged. So I'm trying to find the exact quote. I'll just read the whole thing. The office desires to call your attention a few customs among the Indians which it believed would be modified or discontinued. Wearing of long hair by the male population of your agency is not in keeping with the advancement they are making or will soon be expected to make in civilization. The wearing or short hair by males will be a great step in advance and will it certainly hasten their progress towards civilization. This is the United States. This is Biden. This is your champion, West. Wearing of short hair by males will be a great step in advance and will certainly hasten their progress of the indigenous people towards civilization. We should take this is deadly serious stuff. I mean, it's ridiculous, but this is still right. What is the United States fighting over? Who is making the hay for the global right resurgence, headquartered out of the United States, right? SJW, Gamergate, all the people. Speaking of game designers, John Romero is the Doom, one of the greatest game designers. Gamergate, which came out of Steve Bannon, a right-wing Goldman Sachs ex-executive, discovering that the U.S. and its rootless white males will throw millions of man-hours into trying to destroy the Chinese based on horrible anti-Asian racism in World of Warcraft. right? They're having some problems nowadays, but that's the Blizzard EA stuff, Activision stuff is just the termite rotten digital infrastructure of the West collapsing that was already broken. But all of the right-wing resurgence, SJWs, Gamergate, the quartering, all these people, the freaking out about great, conservative, which is just American and just Western, great Western, homophobic, strict gender binary culture being broken by trans people, being broken by gay people in the 80s, and that was part of the whole AIDS crisis, was the West's homophobia. And today, right? Today, everything rallies around the United States is going to, and the West, the great, they speak in these terms, right? The Western chauvinists, the West is going to be broken by SJWs, gay, screeching, BIPOC supporting, non-straight, non-cis men, and this is where they're going. This is where they're headed. The feminized China CCP backing liberal and left, and they don't even know what those words mean, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that they don't know what anything means. They don't know what civilization means. That's why the people of the Indian Affairs Department says nonsense like wearing of short hair will be a great advancement towards civilization, right? Nobody has ever had an education in the West. That's something I constantly bring up. And that's why you're lost, That's why you're lost, like little boys wearing NASA hats. NASA that's far behind the Chang'e and the Chinese space station and helium-3 mining that will produce infinite, exawatts of free energy through artificial sun fusion and macro tokamak fusion reactors. There's a tokamak fusion reactor, a micro tokamak fusion reactor is actually referenced in Neofeud. But so you're lost. You're lost with your short Beach Boy hair. It's a little longer than average, but still too short. And not only are you actually the hair thing is really actually very interesting because it's such a it's just like what does it matter what length people's hair is, right? But that's a thing. These are these arbitrary Western illusory historiography, this Western illusory to which the Chinese civilization, a 3,500-year-old non-apocalyptic metaphysical aristocracy supporting religion, a natural religion, that's what it's described as, that deals with the Aina, right? It's part of what makes China separate from the way it views itself is part of nature, not as separate from nature with the res mensa and the res extensa and the beings of earth and the lowly things that crawl and walk, and that's a part of Neofeud. It actually ties a lot of Christianity into the Neofeud, the video game that I created from an indigenous left perspective. It ties the Western Christian and feudal and capitalist perspective together with it separates out. I'm trying to get a picture of that. It's because the West separates out the things of Earth, right? And Holly's watching this show about right-wing conservative Christian apocalyptic individuals and cults, but the West is just a giant cult. It's a series of cults. And there's a separation between the lowly things. This is a scene from Neofeud. The lowly things that walk and crawl and swim and sludge around in that mud ball. And there are those beings that are a cut above, Those, the celestial, the godly, like the divine kings, like the divine right of kings, like the divine mandate that says that Louis XIV deserves to have his divine, holy Roman/French kingdom that also continues to back U.S. Western imperialism and Uyghur genocide narratives and is also arming and funding fascists in Ukraine. That France, same France. No different from the 1700s Bourbon King France. It's the same France. But they have a myth of progress because now they have elections. They have Macrons the same as they had Bourbon Kings. They have multi-hundred millionaire and billionaire bankers, corporate executives, and ruling classes that wear way too much fucking Chanel and carry too much Prada on their back when they should be, not colonizing Africa anymore, France. Anyways, so, but, Versailles is very much, I like to call the upper level of this Western Christian historiography based, the earth broken slum hellscape people. That's all the peasants. Those are the working class. Those are the temporary embarrassed millionaires. Those are the the slaves. You go further away. Those are the colonized. Those are all the sad little people dying, keeling over dead from the wildfires, the COVID-19, their inequality, and they can't get healthcare, or being killed by the upper crust fascists that the upper crust is backing. And so, but that's central to Western reality is the in Christianity itself, which is there are the celestial entities, and when we're moving on towards the better utopia that's in heaven. Why should we care about? Or there's a reason why right-wing conservative Christianity, right? But all of the West, but especially the right, is fossil fuel and military. You look at especially the Republican Party, just like the most extreme of this. But they're all about their military and they're all about their fossil fuel, right? And the reason why is part of the reason why, and they're extra Christian, right? See, the Democrats, they're not quite as Christian. They care a little bit more about science, not that much. I lost all my images. I'm like way deep in this fucking displacement. I've displaced everybody. Oh yeah, here it is. So but when you believe that the world is just a temporary place and the real life begins in heaven, right? That's part of the separation of the natural world from the celestial divine world, up there somewhere, right? With the kings, up there with the lords and the ladies and the aristocrats and the billionaires and Elon Musk, right? That you're gonna get there soon if you just sell enough crypto coins, hustle 12-hour a day, jobs driving Uber. If you just hustle enough, you'll get to heaven. That's kind of tech nerd, sci-fi, entrepreneur bro heaven is getting into the Vegas Davos circuit, right? It's actually a but it's still a kind of Christian world. Like, oh man, if I just hustle enough and if I sell enough CrossFit memberships and if I trade enough NFTs, or if I make enough, cyber monkey NFTs and I trade that for some Shiba Inu coins and I make some Doge profits from that, and then I buy some shares of Nestle child slave market backed Skittles, then I'll get to heaven. It's called being Iron Man with a 20 mile by 20 mile Malibu cliffside mansion with Pepper Potts as my hot wife and lots of billions of dollars of cool super suits that shoot missiles out of their butthole made by Lockheed, right? That's the heaven. But it's still about separating this life here, right? Why do Westerners put up with such terrible treatment from their economies compared to a lot of the rest of especially Asia and a lot of the rest of the world? Well, because Americans have a Christian, ahistorical, Western illusory historiography, or a Western Muskian historiography, which is I'm here on Earth, and then if I slave away hard enough in these crap jobs, right, fight hard enough, I'll have the privilege of going to heaven. I mean, for the right wing, it's literally going to heaven and having your 72 virgins and, the milk and honey pouring out of, very straight Fox News anchor girlfriends and having mansions and, having like a George W. Bush level of comfort in heaven. And the glory and angels and, Hillsong, Bono-like, guitar riffs are constantly playing all day and night. Oh, the power and your glory. So, but you're going to heaven, right? The nerd apocalypse is we're all going to be uploaded with Ray Kurzweil into a artificial superintelligence, kind of like the end of Deus Ex, and I'm JC Denton going into Helios and merging with the God AI to run the world, or I'm going to Mars, you know, but that's still that's an illusory Western Deus Ex historiography, you know, of like who we are now, and we're going to this great place. If we just build the technological godhead, we'll ascend. Who cares about the present? Right? Nobody looks at the reality, the natural world, the world. Right? They're thinking about the great, amazing kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of space, Martian, 76, you know, Motoko Kusanagi analogs and elf virtual reality I'm going to live in, right? They're thinking about the millionaire status they're going to reach if they keep. They're thinking about, like, if I go to enough churches and donate to enough mega pastors and I buy enough LuLaRoe and get at the top of this pyramid scheme, I'm going to make it and I'm going to go to heaven. I'm going to be raptured off of earth and go apocalyptic cult. The Jehovah's Witness, Elon Musk, and the Democrats are all in the same cult. They just think, they yell at each other that they're in the wrong cult, basically. But they're all in the same apocalyptic cult that is bringing this neo-feudal apocalypse to the Western world. But it's very important that the indigenous peoples do not view that the meta narrative is very different, you know. This earth, this Aina, you know, like when we have, you know, our you know, the indigenous peoples of the earth that account for 25% of the world of US and Canada's climate emissions, despite being 2%. And that includes us Native Hawaiians here. You know, the earth is not separate from heaven, right? What we do now, who we are now, is fundamentally intertwined with the divine reality that we exist in, and the divinity is in all of us as well. That's actually that concept, which is in a lot of indigenous cultures, had to be stamped out. Right, this idea that there's Africa has similar ideas, Asia cultures have similar ideas of the divinity is in nature and in each person, in the common people. That's unacceptable for a historical religious history backing a permanent aristo-oligarchic class in which the divinity is placed within them, within the 1%. So having these concept of like nature, that's why the Miyazaki movies are interesting, because there's a lot of right-wing Christians, like I know there's a lot of individuals who really don't like those movies, but part of it is because they're fossil fuel. But if you think that, again, my point with the fossil fuels, if you think the world is going to end, and some of this is like Holly, I was talking with Holly about this. Holly's watching a show that's about a lot of these wingnut Christians, and we're kind of talking about this. But if you think the world is going to end, so if you're a right-wing Republican, you think the world's going to go away anytime soon, you're going to go be raptured up into heaven, why not? You know, and Holly was telling me, like in the show, there's somebody's like, oh my God, this is terrible. I've got $30,000 of credit card debt. And the mom's like, oh, that's fine. I've got $90,000 because my pastor said the world was going to end in about 2 years. So it's like, why take $90,000 of credit card debt because you're never going to have to pay it back because the world's going to end and you're going to go to heaven. If the world's going to end, if fossil fuel creates a world that destroys the planet's ability to support life and is wrecking everything, who cares? You're going to be in heaven soon. This earth is temporary, and in Revelations, all of this will pass away. You know, we'll die and we'll ascend, and we'll sit down with Jesus and the Remington rifle and the Bible that he's with, right? So who cares? So fossil fuel makes perfect sense. It actually is very logical if you believe that this earth is temporary and it's all gonna go away, and all your children, and you don't really care. You know, who cares what's gonna happen after this? Everyone will be saved through death. You know, that's why the necromongers in Chronicles of Riddick are very Western. They're very Western Christian religious order, and I don't have time to go into that science fiction franchise as well. Anyways, but if you don't believe this world is gonna exist, if you believe that this is temporary and the real life is in heaven, then fossil fuel drilling is totally fine. Burning the planet is totally fine. Doing anything is fine. Rape, kill, murder, do whatever you want. That's why they do a lot of that stuff. You know, that's why they back fascists. It doesn't matter. Everyone that dies under Ukrainian Nazi boots, shooting British, Estonian, what the fuck, Estonia, and American, bullets, bombs, and snipers trained by the CIA. Everyone the fascists kill will be saved because they're all going to heaven. And they're not fascists. They're just freedom lovers. They're bringing freedom and human rights to Russia. Remember? And they're saving all those poor Russians by liberating them from their mortal shells and getting them off the mortal coil into heaven. Right? So if you're in the military, you don't care if the world is going to get nuked, you're destroying the planet, you're the number one polluter. If you're in fossil fuel, you're the number one polluter, you're breaking the planet. Doesn't matter, because this is temporary. So actually, like, you know, and then there's a lot more people that are in the right wing, extra Christian, extra military, extra fossil fuel. And then the fake left wing is just like, well, they're all super military and fossil fuel. Biden is expanding 80 million acres to drill all over the place. He's funding the military more than any president before him. So it's not like there is no left and there is no center. There's only right wing in the United States. But the Democrats like to put more. They talk about Taibo, kickboxing, and margarita. Like, have a margarita. The right wing is going, piss in your own face and kill some Asians and sit on the throne of Chinese skulls. And the Democrats are going, have a margarita and kickbox, and then sit on the throne of Chinese skulls and piss in your own face, because we don't really care. Let them drink margaritas. But the indigenous people have a different perspective. You know, the BIPOC people of the earth and in their indigenous culture that's not colonized. It doesn't view reality as the lowly, you know, hoi polloi. This is this cyberpunk dystopian slum where everybody is living hand to mouth, or you know, broken no hands to mouth, starving. It's like a cross between the worst Brazilian favela, shadow cities of Mumbai, LA's Skid Row, and the crappiest parts of Hull, North England, all fused together, you know. And then 99% of the earth is covered in this endless shitscape. This is from Neofeud, but right. So, but that's, who cares? Those are the terrestrial beings, and we are the divine kings that have always existed. From the Bourbon kings to the lords of the House of Lords that still exists in Britain, all the way back to the Roman oligarchy that backed the empire. It's always been this way. And 90%, you know, the majority of people didn't vote in Greece or Rome. There's always been a tiny minority governing everyone else in what's called itself the West. That's why they're not really. The East is like kind of like there's some strange people over there. You know, it's like the one. You know, Europe is not really a continent. It's a sad little wet, fucked up tale of Asia. It's like, oh man, we don't really go there. If you look at a map, the reason why Europe and Asia are separate continents, it's the only place that's separated by, well, it's cultural differences. You know, if you look at the U.S. and North and South America, they're connected by a tiny little huge land masses connected by a tiny bridge. Australia, separate continent. Antarctica, separate continent. Big land mass, mostly disconnected from other mega land masses. Africa, clearly connected only across, you know, Saudi Arabia by tiny little bridges, right? Europe, not Europe, COVID. Yeah, you guys are a nightmare. Good job at failing at dealing with COVID, by the way. Since I accidentally Googled this, let's look at how well you're doing. So, the United States again, as Marx said, the United States is the greatest, most vital, and entrepreneurially strong country because of the fusion of Germanic, Celtic, Teutonic, and Anglo bloodlines. So the United States is obviously really shining. You know, it's really doing awesome in this respect. You know, this is not a bubble of how many COVID cases you've had in the last week. In the last week and a little bit, which is 10 million. Good job. In that week, China has had 2,000 cases. America, 10 million. So this is a map of how awesome you are. You see, this is the map of how awesome you are. And so the U.S. is the most vital, most awesome. Europe is second most awesome. Look, Africa's actually like not doing too bad. You know why? Because the global indigenous civilizations are helping each other out in the global south, and that's really sad for you, Europe. That gave birth to your feudal lords. You know, you gave birth to this system. You know, your feudal colonial capitalist slave system. You know, your Western illusory Christian apocalyptic slave shitscape, hellscape. You know, that's all you. So, I mean, you should take credit for the America that genocided the indigenous people there and stole slaves from Africa. Europe, you should really take credit for that. I think Europe actually deserves a lot of this credit, you know? But if you look at a map, Africa is a separate continent, South America, separate continent, North America, obviously, tiny land bridge connecting through Nicaragua over there, right? Africa, you know, mostly separate with, you know, connecting at a few points, right? Like here, where America uses its chokehold as its imperial foothold down there in Israel. Australia, separate, right? And they have the mega continent is Asia. It's actually like half the populations there of the world. It's one of the, and it's also, China is just the heart of Asia, really. It's not really like, it's just the heart of one of the largest, oldest continents. It's a ancient civilization that has existed to this day with 56 different indigenous ethnic regions and peoples whose languages are still spoken and are not banned, unlike my language. People get arrested for speaking Hawaiian, you know, in the Pacific here. People get arrested for speaking Hawaiian in 2018 in a court of law. You know what they don't arrest Uyghurs for? Speaking their own language. One of countless things that the U.S., these clowns over here, the mega failures. I mean, I'm sorry. You're the greatest country in the world. France, you know, Britain, Netherlands, you know, Germany, Italy, all you guys are so awesome, man. So awesome. Good job. But, you know, the difference between Asia and Europe, Europe is not connected by a tiny little land bridge. You know, Europe is just a little piece of Asia, like geographically, right? Now, the so-called Western university and science and geographical and topological system will jump and bend over backwards to justify the racism, because all of the intellectual academic world in the West still has to genuflect its knee and obey its mediocre Elon Musk and its ruling class. And that's why, if you look at a map, obviously, right, there should be like, it's either Eurasia, it should be like Asia, Europe. It should just be Asia, and then the people in Europe can be part of Asia, right? But the reason why Europe is separate from Asia is because the people of Europe are the most hubristic, self-centered, and racist, and just like barbaric. And they can't stand to be a part of Asia. You know, they can't stand that they're just a little, you know, less than 10% of the world's population. And they don't want to be part of Asia because they're racist. They're anti-Asian racist. Yellow peril goes back thousands of years. German war, colonial trope. All the Greeks and the Romans, they all had their own words for the despots over there. And because Europe hates Asia, and believes itself to be better than everyone else, and is supremacist to the core, Christian, white, Euro, and Western supremacists. That's why they're backing Nazis. Who are about Western? That's why France, the US, the UK, and Estonia are backing Nazis in Ukraine, is because they still hate Asia, and they still don't want to be part of it. So Europe breaks geological, topological, tectonic. It breaks the natural definitions of a continent because of Western, barbaric, nonsensical, racist supremacy. We just want to be separate from Asia, even though there's no real reason why we should be a separate continent. And so science gets broken to benefit Western racism. It's kind of like phrenology, which is about racism. Why did people leave black? It's because what's more important than doing actual biological or health science is the 1% ruling class and my colonial racist worldview being upheld is more important than science. The same reason why medical, it's the reason why you suck at COVID, because anti-Asian racism, right? China started COVID. China's despotic. China's dirty, unclean. It's a Wuhan terror lab attack. It's about what? Suppressing Russia and China and suppressing socialism. And it's also, it's racist and it's capitalist, anti-communist, right? And so you break pandemic science for your racism and for your 1% aristocracy. In the same way that you break, Earth geological science, so you can have Europe be a separate continent from Asia. That's nonsense. You're just a bunch of racists. And good job fucking yourself at COVID. I'm just gonna leave this map up here so that all the Europeans can go cry into their Nazi Cheerios or whatever the fuck they eat when they support U.S. military-industrial complex funded warfare against China and Russia. I don't know what the Europeans are eating right now. It's probably America. Are you eating freedom fries in France as you're pumping out, State Department ASPI funded garbage? France, is that what you're eating? Is freedom fries? Are you having like star-spangled anti-vax rallies in Belgium? They are, actually. That's what they're having there. So Europe is gonna go die in its own shit that it's spewed all over the planet. Anyway, enough beating up on Europe. The indigenous people don't. But the important thing is, the indigenous people don't view the world, right? They don't view the world as Europe over here and then the rest of the continent broken off. Actually, one more comment. I was talking to Holly about this. The breaking Europe as a separate continent, right? Breaking Europe off as a separate continent from Asia is, it's like we were talking about. We're like, what was that comparison? It's like saying there are. I'm trying to think of like a natural phenomenon. Yeah, that's what it is. Breaking Europe off as a separate continent from Asia when it's clearly just a little piece of Asia. The most COVID-ridden part of Asia. That's what it is. That's why we should just rename Europe. Europe is called Covasia. It's the COVID-filled shithole part of Europe. It's the Black Plague. It's Black Plasia. That's what Europe is. It's like, oh my God, you guys are like fucking not washing your ass. You are the unwashed ass Asia. That's what you are, Europe. You should own that name. Europe being a separate part of Asia is the equivalent of it's like calling a storm happening over France a Eurocane. Well, we don't have storms. We have Euro storms. It's like why do you need a separate name for storms over here? That's like a forest fire, right? It's a natural phenomenon, right? That's like a forest fire. They're having a lot of them, by the way, all over Europe because your climate change that you're causing, Europeans, that you cause disproportionately 4 to 10 times more climate emissions over history with the 450 trillion you stole from the global South, Europe, and the United States and your settler colonies. So you the ones causing the fires. But it'd be like calling a European-caused wildfire a Eurofire. Like, why does it need a separate denomination? A fire happening in, China is a fire. A forest fire happening in Africa is a forest fire. A forest fire happening in Brazil is a forest fire. A forest fire happening in Australia is a forest fire, right? But a forest fire happening in Germany or in the UK is a Eurofire. What the fuck? Why does it need a distinction? It doesn't. It's just a natural phenomenon. Europe is not a continent by the definition of that definition of continent. The only way it makes any sense is if you take into effect that the people that are writing about continents are speaking English or French or Spanish, and they're a bunch of racists, and they want to break themselves off from the people that aren't white. They're racist, they're anti-Asian, they're yellow perilist, they're snobs, they're elitists, they're run by a Western illusory historiography of people who privilege their own benefit and greed and career and success over literally anyone and everything else. And only in that understanding of a Western colonial capitalist slave barbaristic feudal and neo-feudal techno-king managed hellscape does the continent of Europe make any sense. Anyway, that's the last thing I'll say about that. And I mean, and these COVID numbers, they only make sense if you understand Europe and its settler colonies as an outgrowth of this. Anyway, so, but yeah, so indigenous people don't see indigenous people do not see M&Ms. You can't see M&Ms because M&Ms are John Cena. We don't see M&Ms. Indigenous people don't see Tucker Carlson because why would you want to see that? That's disgusting. Indigenous, where the fuck? I lost my indigenous people thing. Indigenous people who make up 25% of the world's the U.S. carbon reduction. Indigenous people that invent suns, the Chinese, right? That invented that are smashing all the records in artificial suns, making fusion. The Chinese that invented black powder and the paper that Americans wrote their constitution on, that the French wrote their Bourbon King papyrus scroll nonsense on about how he deserves to have his kingdom. All that paper, the Bibles that they printed on, were stolen from Asia, from China, in fact. The paper, the black powder that the Chinese were using to celebrate, that was an indigenous civil, because the Chinese are 56. Again, Chinese are indigenous people. The Vietnamese are indigenous people. All the people of Africa are the indigenous people. They're the people that have existed for thousands of years in place. They're just more successful at doing superintelligence, which is a combination of normal human intelligence allowed to express itself to its maximum potential because you're not wasting it on a hereditary aristocracy, capitalist, feudal, slave master, or employer profit and labor value expropriation, right? And who are also directing your entire society, like Elon and Gates are choosing where to throw money, which is into their own pocket, right? So when it makes, if you think about it for a little bit, it makes sense how indigenous people became how the Chinese got so advanced, and the Europeans are floundering around in their COVID dens and in their Black Plague dens, right? The Chinese got so advanced because they just weren't they were just running themselves in a way that is about win-win cooperation, and it's about mutual aid, and it's about everybody working together and following science. That's part of the natural what Voltaire called it, a natural religion, and a natural a respect for nature, and it's also a natural science that the West also respect. Science itself was really another thing that the West badly tried to copy from the East. The iatrogenics is a study of how doctors and healers killed more people than they saved for the entire history of Western medicine for 2,000 years until the mid 1960s, I think. Iatrogenics is a study of the study of doctors and healers, hospitals and clinics, and the medical system killing more people than they saved, with bloodletting, putting leeches on people, saving you by exorcisms and all these, that goes all the way back to the Greeks with Plato, who would literally come up with theories in his head and if they didn't apply to reality and you called him on it, he would just fight you and kill you sometimes. And that's basically what the West does. That's the Catholic Church house arresting Galileo. That's just one. That's a minor example. I mean, they exterminated much of the world for their own bogus religion. People who had much more advanced science than them, that concept of having respecting actual science and actual meritocracy, actual scientific method. The U.S. has pockets of scientific method, but then they get broken and fucked up whenever capital, the ruling class, warmongers, and the right wing need to. Right? You know what China doesn't have? It doesn't have a massive rabid right wing wrecking any attempts to have a safe, secure, equal society, and also not get COVID. So that's what you can't do that if you allow that to propagate. But the West cannot stop allowing. That's why the U.S. doesn't sign on to the anti-Nazi, anti-xenophobia, anti-racism UN resolution, because the West needs its right-wing extremism to maintain a global self-destructive fighting forces around the world, and to crush socialism and communism if they get too strong. Fascism will never exist as long as it remains ruling Western countries. That will always exist because they fund it, they foment it, they arm it, from the Mujahideen to Bolsonaro to all of the right-wing whoever you want for Bolivia's lithium. The West as long as it is on top, well, I mean, as long as it's around, really, in its current form, and it doesn't interrogate all of its misdeeds, there will be these destructive forces that wreck the planet, kill people, and destroy science. Attempts to do natural science. And that's why you suck. There's no reason why you suck at doing things like smashing the 1,000-second fusion world record. You know, and they're progressing much faster than that. Anyway, that's just one of the things that you've done. But that's what happens, you know, is like, and that's the point I make again and again. But so indigenous people, like, again, the earth is not separate from nature, right? The animals and the plants in Hawaiian is the same thing. The Aina is our mother that we have to respect. Kalo is our elder brother, and we care for Kalo because Kalo cares for us. And I mean, in comparison to the Western vantage point, which is Kalo is a lowly. It's not even an animal. Animals are beneath the humans in the Western Christian and atheist worldview. And Kalo is there to be subdued and to be controlled however we see fit. That's a very important point in Neofeud as well. You know, it comes up. There's that line where King Warren is giving a speech, and he goes into he wraps the capitalism, the Christianity, the empire, the feudalism, the colonialism, and the capitalism all together in this King Warren. I'm trying to find Neofeud King speech. There's that part in the speech where he let's see try to find the actual speech. Okay, I think it's somewhere here. But anyway, so in Neofeud, there's a scene where he is giving a speech to the G7, which is the richest people in the solar system that they're colonizing. It's U.S., it's France, it's Britain that have now left the Earth because Earth is mostly uninhabitable. A handful of the richest, most powerful people own everything in the solar system, including all the golden comets. And you know, so in Neofeud, see if I can jump all the way forward to the part that I want to get to. Usually I can find it pretty fast. Okay, I'm gonna use this one. Nope, this is not the right one. Okay, so you know, King Warren is there. He is how about 15? Is this one? Yeah, probably this one. There we go. No, not that one. How about 14? Nope, 13. God damn it. Yeah, here we go. So King Warren, he's giving his speech. He's talking about, we, the Neofeud elite, the captains of industry, we all deserve a little congratulations for our work. It's only fair for our hard work that we should be rewarded with dominion over all of these terrestrial living things. Again, so these are the 7 richest people in the universe, that the known world, the known universe. Anyway, it's only fair for our hard work that we should be rewarded with dominion. The British described Canada as part of the Dominion. Australia, all of the Dominion is a word that goes back deep into Western history. It's the places that we are dominating over, right? And all of the earth, from the people, the plants, and the animals, and the land itself, and all of its oil and its natural gas in Canada is the dominion of the great British Empire that happens to have a crucifix in it. That's why the indigenous people of Hawaii survived the hell of the British imperial reign by putting a Union Jack in, because if you didn't, the British might just kill and exterminate everyone and everything you were standing on and turn you into slaves, or bring slaves to you, which is what the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants did in the United States. So Dominion is key to understanding the worldview of the Western European. As opposed to, Aina, right? As opposed to the Shakang Shahui, right? Moderate prosperity, or Shahui is the all of us together, the society, right? That's the word. Shakang Shahui is the common moderate prosperity for all of the people, right? And so the way that China views the world is not the people as separate, and the richest, most powerful people as separate from all of the rest of the society, right? And the richest, most powerful people separate from the land and the water and the animals, right? For Hawaiians, right? Aina is that which feeds, that which sustains, Aina Hawaiian. Hawaiian in Aina, the Aina is mother, right? It's the earth is your mother. It is that which feeds and that which sustains. You cannot buy and sell your mother, and it is to be respected. And Kalo is this plant. Kalo is your elder brother. You have to respect your elder brother, right? There's not that is nonsense. That is not that this is why I think that when a lot of Americans, especially like center and right Americans and Westerners, watch Miyazaki movies, which has in it a lot of the deeper Asian indigenous influences, like Princess Mononoke, about respecting the earth and the earth fighting back. We were just like watching one of the movies, it wasn't Princess Mononoke, but something kind of like that. I think Holly and they were watching. They're about nature is an agent in the world. The animals and the plants, right? Spirited Away, is about the Haku is the living river, right? And the thing that is the kind of the antagonist, if anything, is the endless greed and the endless the no face, right? That offers you what you think you want, and then it takes everything from you, and it destroys the water, it destroys the river, it spreads a black sludge through everything. And the nature itself is a protagonist. In Shinto beliefs, like I'm actually part Japanese, so I don't know fully about this, but I know parts of it. At least the ancient indigenous beliefs are grounded in all of life. Even Ghost in the Shell, the Japanese translation for Ghost in the Shell has something directly to do with the natural religion that Voltaire was talking about. It's like one of them, not the natural religion. There's a variety of indigenous people's cultural and spiritual beliefs, but the actual translation for Ghost in the Shell, which is a cyberpunk movie, is where the fuck is it? It's like goddamn, I'm missing the word. It's like it's the kami, it's the spirit within the machine, right? But it's the Ghost in the Shell. It's not just about having a consciousness inside of a machine. It has something to do with also the Shinto and the belief that all things, including the robots, right? They view robots differently. Have a natural force within them, in the same way that like in like some of the traditional Japanese beliefs, the rocks, the trees, things that Yoda says, because Yoda is a white guy going to Asia and then ripping him off and then making movies about it. That's what Yoda is. That's why he's dressed like a Asian with his kimono. The belief that in all things is divinity, is God, is and even if it's not, if you don't want to take this the spiritual religious part of it, all of nature has importance. It's not just about God being there, because it really doesn't translate properly. It's not just about God being inside of rocks and you should just worship the rock and worship the tree the way that you would worship you shouldn't worship the rock and worship the tree the way that you worship a Jesus Christ on a cross, who happens to be a brown guy who was lynched or killed like Martin Luther King, and then hung up on a cross and then became a symbol of the empire, which is actually, I argue Jesus is just is like the original Martin Luther King for the Roman, the Roman equivalent for the U.S. empire, right? We're gonna kill somebody who's trying to resist us being colonized. And Martin Luther King is an African indigenous person being internally colonized. And Jesus was somebody who has been persecuted for a long time throughout Europe, one of their peoples. Mass lynched and then hung up, and then Martin Luther King Day represents America, right? That's why Kamala and Biden are out there doing their best to recuperate for the United States, right? The black man who they assassinated. And FBI is putting out, "We love Martin Luther King." The US Navy, right, is over there going, "Martin Luther King," you know? The Oahu Water Protectors at Red Hill were talking about the US Navy's Martin Luther King Day, you know, speech about how represent the values that Martin Luther King upheld by joining the US military and the US Navy. But that's what empires do. That's what Jesus was about. It was about taking the Roman Empire, taking his assassination. It's called this artisanal lynching. It's called crucifixion. Nailing him to a cross till he dies from his internal organs collapsing, and then putting him on the shield and going, "Look, we are the saviors of the world. We are the Holy Roman Empire post Constantine." And that's the United States with Martin Luther King. Look, we are the saviors of the world because we had a black guy who was really nice and good, and we love our black people. And that's why Russia, China bad. That's why the rest of the indigenous world and the communist world bad, and America good. Because look, we have Jesus and Martin Luther, Jesus fucking Christ King. And you should fucking follow us into freedom, human rights, and democracy, and Western capitalism. I mean, it's literally, you know, that's what Christianity is actually about. It's about taking the world, making it in your image, selling yourself as the greatest, holiest, best, most ethical thing for all the people who somehow want to like be good people for some reason. And if not, you can be bad and get away with it using Jesus as your vending machine and Jesus as your get out of murder, rape, killing, and thieving machine. And that's what Christianity is. It's a non-natural based, illusory, oligarch and imperialism benefiting apocalyptic death cult that has existed for thousands of years by defacing whatever an anti-colonial indigenous person, brown dude, said against an empire that was doing what America is doing to the Wet'suwet'en and the Anishinaabe in Canada too. He's somebody who spoke up against what is happening to the Palestinians. It's a brown dude who spoke up against what was happening to the Hawaiians, what's happening to us right now as we're being poisoned by the star-spangled Holy Roman Empire's descendants, the United States, right? And that's what, and it's you know, it's very different from a natural, nature-based understanding of reality. Not just the divinity, but like the ecological, scientific relationships between, speaking of Captain Utopia, the scientific and ethical relationships between the plants of the world, the animals of the world, the water and the ecosystems of the world, and the people of the world, right, as interconnected. You know, the word religion is a broken word. It really it's fucked up, and the separation of these kind of understandings of reality, or the way that the world is compartmentalized in Western paradigm and worldview is just wrong. You know, it's hard to really break out spirituality, religion, as this kind of separate plane of existence to earth plane of existence. The word civilization is a nonsensical word because the civilized countries are UK, US, Europe, and France. And if the civilized countries are those that don't commit war crimes, who's committing the most war crimes? You know, it's just everything is wrong. Everything is backwards, because it has to be. But anyways, so when you understand yourself as part of, actually, this Captain Utopia is throwing me off. I got to turn this off. We'll come back to Captain Utopia. When you understand yourself as part of nature, as the Hawaiians do, as the Chinese do, as some of the indigenous cultures in Japan. I mean, later was Imperial Japan that was different, but a lot of that was influenced by the West, the US, the Germans, and the Japanese that worked together to kill communists. There's a picture in 1939 of a Nazi officer, American officer, and a Japanese officer standing there looking out, celebrating their great conquest, all having a good time together. And you can turn away from and move away from your indigeneity and from your healed way of being into a more broken way of being. A lot of Hawaiians in the U.S. military, and Obama was the greatest Palpatine. With his skin tone, might be darker than mine, but that's not where, the way of being is more important than your melanin count. Whiteness, Luna is lighter than EJ, but Luna is not white. So it's actually not just a skin tone thing. It's a way of being inside, and it's a confluence of a lot of things. But when you understand reality to be integrated with, and you understand, it's not really understand, it's not like we understand reality to be that we are part of nature. It's just understanding reality clearly. It's just science. Which is that if you do not maintain the interconnected systems of plants, the soil, pH, all these other things, it's all science, but it's all coded in it's all said in languages that are primitive to the West, like and when you talk about the kalo in the lo'i, we have to malama aina, right? It sounds primitive because of linguistic racism and anti-indigeneity and anti-Asianness, anti-blackness, anti-brownness, and just pushing off anything that is said as woo-woo, spiritual, hippy-dippy or something. It's actually, a lot of it is just science, and then it also has it's spoken in metaphorical in metaphorical poetic ways, but it's not really. I would argue actually a lot of the things that are called poetry in Hawaiian is just different taxonomy and ontology of the world, right? In things, because poetry is when you take things that are not normally crossed, right, that are separated into different domains of understanding, right? Like when you say Juliet, it is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Usually, beautiful girl and sun is not the same thing. So it's like you're crossing two different things. That's poetry. I mean, that's generally what's understood. But if you were when you constantly use a word to relate to another formally distant knowledge compartment, it starts becoming less metaphorical and less poetic, and it just becomes common language, right? Language, if you study, I mean, this is getting deep into the weeds of linguistics and neuroscience, but language is built through metaphor. And so when Hawaiians talk about the divinity and the plants and the kalo being our older brother and these things, these are less metaphorical and they're more scientific understanding. It sounds like a deep metaphor. Oh, you mean the plant is like my brother? That's like hearing for the first time the sun is the east, But over time, it's not really a metaphor. It just becomes part of the language to describe the relationship that humans have to plants. In particular, that which gives us lau and poi. I'm a native Hawaiian, so I'm centering on this one. And so it's not, I would argue, it's not necessarily that the Hawaiian language, the Hawaiians are very poetic as well, but I would argue it's not necessarily that the Hawaiian language is that's so common that's often made by Europeans, including Swiss and British and French and Americans that I've talked to. Hawaiian is a very poetic language. It is, but a lot of that which seems like poetry is only poetry because things that are never compared to and woven together, like the natural world and human relationships, and humans and the natural world, things that are not normally things that are normally broken off and siloed off are de-siloed and decompartmentalized in Hawaiian culture. But it's because they're trying to accurately describe reality, not destroy reality, like all of these clowns, right? The belief that nature, right, is separate and that the most powerful and richest and most elite of the humans is separate from even the rest of the humans, right? Under what? Under an idea that we, the feudal and the capitalist and the techno kings, as part of the neo-feudal elite, captains of industry deserve dominion over all terrestrial Earth, the natural world, living things, right? Including the 99%, the commoners, the peasants, the slaves, the working class, the employed, those people that with less than $2 million net worth, the colonies of the world, the non-white peoples of the world, the non-straight cis men of the world, and aristocratic landed straight cis men at that, deserve, right? The corporate executive deserves to be the dictator in the workplace, even though you don't realize you're not working in a democracy, but they deserve that position to order you around at any second of the day and dictate your life non-democratically, right? As opposed to democracy in the workplace, which is just a hui, which is an ancient Asian and indigenous Pacific Islander technology. Not something that was invented by the DSA in 2010. The concept that there are things that need to that there is dominion, right? Control, domination over things, plants, animals, and people is a foreign, artificial breaking of natural science that environmental scientists like Leo's character or lawyers like Steven Danziger or activists are discovering only in the 1970s in the West, but that indigenous people have known all along. And it seems like spiritual, religious woo-woo stuff because the West has been diseducated and broken for 2,000 years. It's not really that it's metaphorical and then it's weird, puzzling, it's just that the indigenous people have been doing not more hippy-dippy, mystical, supernatural stuff. They've been doing the science, and the West has been doing the supernatural woo-woo. Jesus Christ is going to save me, I'm going to go to heaven. Or the woo-woo, Elon Musk is going to save me, I'm going to go work in Tesla factories until I become a trillionaire. Or I'm going to be nerd raptured with Ray Kurzweil into a super intelligent computer that's going to cure cancer, war, poverty, political strife, fascism, my inability to get a girlfriend, and that's why I became an incel, and uploading my consciousness into some kind of quantum supercomputer on the moon. The thing is, if you get uploaded into a computer, if anything, it's going to be a Chinese computer, so you better fucking learn your Chinese. Because the West can't get its goddamn... It's just, they already have sub 10 times fast. If there are super intelligent computers, there will be Chinese super intelligent artificial intelligence. Thank God. I mean, not to say that the super intelligence is not gonna end, is not gonna be bad for, it's not clear what exactly would happen if we invented a super actual super H plus godlike intelligence that's like infinitely more smart. It has like the computing power of a quadrillion times every human mind that's ever existed for the last 200,000 years. It's not clear what would actually happen, but what we can guarantee is that if the barbaric West were to invent an artificial intelligence, they would absolutely fuck it up and make it evil. That's not to say the Chinese will make something that isn't, but they have the best chance of not fucking it up in the same way that they don't fuck up things like killing 1 million of their own citizens, with treatable pandemics, or the Europeans for that matter, who fucked up at killing, hundreds of thousands of their citizens with controllable pandemics, And now all that France 24 and the DW News, along with the BBC and the New York Times, is putting out is fucking copium about why they suck so much. So maybe stop coping and stop making war on Russia and China and the rest of the world, and just like be better. Just cooperate. Win-win cooperation, like the keeps trying to say, but nobody wants to hear it because they're too busy putting out China is aggressive on Taiwan and Russia is aggressing on Ukraine. Just cooperate, okay? Jesus Christ. Oh my goodness. Anyways, way off topic though. Way the fuck off topic. But this does all tie back together. So, so when we talk about the natural, and all the people that understand science are coming back to going, you have to support indigenous people. You have to support indigenous people. And you also have to support the socialist people who are also indigenous, like the Chinese and the Vietnamese, because they actually are doing all the indigenous people in Turtle Island, like Anishinaabe, Sioux, Lakota, etc. The indigenous people in Bolivia, like that are a little further along in their advancement and technological development, economic modernization, with common prosperity, and their racial economic dealing they're advancing very quickly as well. But the Chinese and the Vietnamese are just the most advanced along the path indigenous people at the moment. But they're all indigenous people that are all actually, if you're honest about this, dealing with the climate change as they always have been trying to do, until the West got in the way and fucked them up and humiliated all of us for a century or two, right? But all the climate scientists know, even Harrison Ford is out there going, you have to support the indigenous people. This is like materially, it's not only ethically right, it is like mandatory if we want to have a livable and habitable biosphere and stuff. So, for all these reasons, these are things. But again, Voltaire, I want to say this is not new. Voltaire pointed this out 200-300 years ago. Let me get the actual quote so I don't misquote him again. I love this quote because it points out it ties a lot of this stuff together that I talk about often. And they don't put this on, brainyquotes.com because it's embarrassing for the West. Kind of like when John Romero goes, I'm going to grow my hair long because long hair, for no reason other than barbarism, was seen as uncivilized by the Americans or the United States. And this is another quote that ties a lot of this together. Voltaire, the wisest nation was China, which was shown to have a natural religion reduced to deism and morality. This 4,000-year-old empire, 4,000-year-old civilization, antidote to illusions of Western Christian historiography, still offers the best constitution. Essai sur l'amour. It's like I'm not very good at my French, but it's French. This is all translated, so. China offers the best constitution. Does it not rest on the merit of the Mandarins? Mandarin is like the kahuna. Basically, it's going back to the science. The kahuna, like for example, when you're building a rock wall, right? Larry Kimura was a kahuna of Hawaiian language when there barely anybody speaking Hawaiian language. There was recently a Hawaiian language revitalization, endangered languages revitalization program. If you know how to build a rock wall, right, in the ancient way, this is one of the technologies that we built. You have a lot of lava rock where we are, and so if you get rocks, if you know how to make rock walls, well, you become the Mandarin or the kahuna is what we use. The expert. It just means the best scientist in a meritocracy best in that knowledge realm of constructing of rock walls. Then you are you're like the kahuna, or another word would kind of be like not exactly, but it's similar to the Mandarin. That who is meritocratically the best in that realm, right? And Western science is really an attempt to replicate kahuna and Mandarin systems, the same way that the Constitution is a badly plagiarized Iroquois document binding their nations, right? And also the meritocracy that isn't really in Britain of A levels was actually ripped off from China as well, along with the entire contents of the Summer Palace and Lord Elgin's opium wars that stole all the wealth that these clown ass failures like Europe built their so-called greatness on, and then rewrote history. So the system of selecting those that are experts in a film. This is what Beijing does as well. Is that what they'll do is they'll give different provinces autonomy to select how they choose to advance. So like we need more economic development to feed like the 2 million people coming out from extreme poverty in this region in Fujian or whatever. And then the governor provincial go, okay, well, what we're gonna do is we're gonna use like people that are working on entrepreneurial projects trying to invent better phone tech, but we're gonna do that like in a way that doesn't allow super trillionaires, and that's why they got rid of 15 billionaires. They reined in at financial. They stopped the big techs from merging with mega hyper finance in Evergrande, etc. But you guys can work on like Huawei, Huawei, Weibo, WeChat, all the Chinese tech companies, the advanced Chinese AI companies, 5G. It was okay, let's try to do something like what Silicon Valley has been doing, but let's like get rid of all the unnecessary capitalist excesses that are actually hindering it. And then you get things like Huawei, and you get things like artificial suns and shit. And then, okay, if that seems to be working, right, then the governors who are succeeding, they take that concept and they become the Mandarin of how to build technological advancement when we've got out from under the boot of colonial starvation, and now we have food. Everybody has one shirt, one TV, one house, one livable house, and enough food. Okay, how do we like continue to build and grow in moderate prosperity without becoming the West? Because it's a danger. It's the middle income trap, and like falling into the orbit of the United States and its Western capitalist hegemony. And it sucked them, and its satellites in Japan and Korea. And China is like, we don't want to become part. We don't want to lose our autonomy as a socialist indigenous fifth of the Earth's population and just become a satellite of the United States. So let's figure out a way to take the things that work, but then throw away the things that don't work, right? Let's take the innovation at NASA and in the actually kind of socialist governed and in tech companies, but like lose all of the board of directors and the CEOs and executives making $50, $100, $200 billion, wasting money on canned presentations of Cybertrucks because he played too much fucking Tomb Raider and he wants to make a card that's shaped like Laura Croft's titties circa 1997. That's a waste of resource. Like, they don't do that. They don't let you do that at Huawei. Just, we're making phones and we're not wasting money, right? Trying to make people look like they're Iron Man when they aren't. It's a waste of resources. So they, but that's a continuation of a scientific way of managing society. It comes from Kahuna and Mandarin systems where it's a meritocratic system of which way is working the best. And if your province is producing successes under the current material conditions, then the central government says, okay, everybody else learn from the Kahuna, the Mandarin of advanced 5G, big tech, artificial intelligence innovation. Bring that to your other places because this is working. It's social and civilizational science. It's not just science about how electromagnetism works and quantum computing works. They have the most advanced quantum computers, and our kids just created a virtual fusion engine, taking tritium and deuterium and creating near infinite energy by using the 120 million degree process similar to the sun's core. But not just like how to do science, material science better, social science and political science and economic science. That's all science, right? By learning that dialectical materialism, I would argue dialectical materialism in a lot of ways is actually ancient science, is an ancient way of thinking that Karl Marx is trying to describe that the West never replicated. Because if the West had replicated actual dialectical materialism, you know where they would, if the so-called socialist countries of Europe actually did the dialectical materialism they pretend like they know about, if the West had replicated the so-called inventions of socialism that they said that they invented, they wouldn't be as fucked as this, they wouldn't be killing themselves, And I would argue actually like dialectical thinking of things in a comprehensive and historical way, and examining reality in a non-dogmatic, right, in a non-illusory way, is just like normal thinking that hasn't happened. It's just normal thinking when it's unbroken by illusory Western historiography and cognitive processes and economic and political structures, right? Dialectical materialism, like indigenous society, is just normal human society, and dialectical materialism is normal human thinking when it's not fucked up by all these people with giant blue circles around their country. Why? Because of things like this. Because of things like because of things like not this. Because of things like this, Because of things like this. So But of course, that's I'm painting with a very broad brush. Like dialectic, I'm not saying don't learn dialectic material. Dialectic materialism is very important and it's helped a lot of people, in their own journeys. But it is a word in English. So a lot of wrong things have been said about it, especially if you go into the Western left nowadays. But anyway, I have lost my way away from the Navigator. And I'm not talking about dogs catching silverized frisbees anymore. So I feel bad. This is not a frisbee. That's an actual UFO. Anyway, back to the Navigator though. Where the fuck was I coming from? I forgot. Lost my way in this. I was talking about M&Ms. I was talking about M&Ms and shoes. This is very important though. I want to hit that one more time, which is that the M&M not having men and women chocolate fucking candies being a major focal point for mainstream Western countries, right, is not an accident. This is a continuation. It's a continuation of what John Romero was bringing to light, which is that strict gender binary and patriarchy as part of the system, right, that forced John's ancestors to starve to death or be punished for having long hair as a man, right? That is part of this imperial complex. This is part of this barbarous complex in the Star-Spangled Roman Empire. And so and we can't. And again, as Martin Luther King also said, militarism, racism, and poverty under capitalism, these three we will have to get rid of together, right? And then, and then he got Jesus, and then put up on the front page, and then put on all of America's shields, right? Now they have joined the Navy, right? Join the Navy, honor Martin MLK. Literally, it's like the Romans, right? Look, we're holy, good people. Jesus died for our sins, and now join the Roman army or we'll kill you all. Because we're good. It's like the Romans are just kind of like, they were like Republican, and then they're like, oh, we're the good Romans now. We're the good Romans, and we're gonna cleanse. We're not killing you because we just want to give a tiny minority of our oligarchs, our number one capitalist ruling class that is based on race. It still had a non-native Greek and Roman only had voting rights, and it was a tiny minority of them that actually ran the society in the oligarchies that have never stopped existing in the Western democracies. That Rome and the Senate of Rome and the Greek elections ostensibly had democracy. There's never been democracy in the West, but anyways, they're doing the same thing that they've always done. And it's too bad that they're gonna make Neofeud land for themselves. I mean, the good thing about Neofeud is that it's not fully correct, because a lot of the world, the Western world, is looking more and more like this, with their feudalism and their capitalism and their their Christian compartmentalized heaven and earth broken ways, killing themselves right now, right, and wrecking their own places. But most of the world is actually not going in this direction. I mean, with the exception of nuclear war and climate, and war, kinetic proxy war, and nuclear war and climate, the rest of the world is not going in this direction. They're moving away from this, even though you can't see in the U.S. and in Europe, you can't see it. In the West, U.S., Canada, Australia, New Zealand is kind of like, the thing is, New Zealand has more power in their indigenous hands. There's more actual indigenous economic sovereignty. That's why Taika Waititi is doing a lot of Reservation Dogs and directing a lot of movies, and Tamura Morrison, indigenous person, is doing Boba Fett and lots of shows that are really good nowadays. Is because the indigenous people of New Zealand, the Maori people, have more. They have a more. There's a slightly. It's still colonial what happened there, but the British Empire was less able to fully colonize New Zealand to the degree that they colonized, let's say, Australia, Canada, the United States, and Hawaii. And so, so they have less of that, but it's still colonial, to be clear. It's you ask the Maori people who are trying to get Ihu Matao to not be desecrated and destroyed. Ask the Maori people who get yelled at and booed when they say kia ora in like government meetings and stuff. Like this happened. I was watching a video of it. There's actually this is not like ask the Christchurch shooter that fucking came in and massacred people there. I don't know. It came from Australia, but it's not like there's people that are not white and super freaking racist in New Zealand. Actually, there's a lot of inequality in New Zealand, right? If you look very closely, Auckland, it's for people of color and for white people, but of course, it's disproportionately for a particular group of people, like in the United States. And it's not all sun and roses. People are like, "Oh, New Zealand is the best ever." It's like, no, it's got colonial capitalism like every fucking where else that the West has touched. It's more testament to the Maoris' persistence and fighting for their whatever sovereignty that they have. So, but everywhere is impacted by this. So, back to what the fuck I was talking about. Not that. Not this. Yeah, this. Anyway, so my point is that in the 80s, everybody rolled their sleeves up and then, like, acted an alien. I'm just kidding. This lady acted an alien, though. That's the lady that plays the screamer, that screams at the alien chestburster exploding from somebody's chest cavity in the movie Alien. I think also is canonically assigned male at birth and then isn't later on, if I'm not mistaken. I forget the exact details on that, but there is technically a trans character in Alien if you look closely at the BIOS. But anyways, and that was in 1979. But it's not really it's not like it's a story of a trans person. No, but there is somebody who is like not who has been assigned one at birth and is confirmed as something else now. Anyways, this is from Flight of the Navigator. I'm sorry, I'm like way off topic. But so my point is that, like, Flight of the Navigator, you have people that are lost. You have a little boy that's lost in his reality, right? Doesn't know what he wants to do in Cold War era, Stranger Things era US, who is trying to, he what the fuck am I doing? I'm trying to find all my. I got too many tabs now. I gotta close some of these fucking tabs. Hold on, let me close some of these tabs. So he's trying to figure out what he's gonna do with his life. He's trying to figure out, where he's gonna go with the rest of his life, and he doesn't know. It's kind of like a metaphor for navigation. He's like playing with his dog, but that's not going too well. He's having problems with the girls. He's having problems with his brother. And then he gets whisked away, and many advanced technological advances. One thing I want to talk about is the ways that you have a super advanced artificial intelligence or super advanced alien civilization. Because my topic was supposed to be not John Romero's hair. My topic was supposed to be Flight of the Navigator and superintelligence, right? So some of them are faster than light travel. So going from Earth to a planet, thousands of light years away in like 2 seconds or even 2 hours. Brain-computer interfaces. So the main character in Flight of the Navigator, another thing that happens is the boy is speaking mysteriously directly from his brain into computer circuits, and like he's like putting out star charts and entire sentences and yes and no questions. He's like inputting like gigabytes of data from his brain straight into NASA computer systems. And as a computer programmer, I would love to have that ability because it would save me a lot of time when I'm entering in like 200,000 lines of code to finish Neofeud 2. Because I spent a lot of time working on artificial intelligence in Decolonators and Neofeud 2, and also working on putting C# and C++ style codes, semicolons, if else statements, and nested parentheses with mountains of long drawn out paragraphs of Silver Spook writing in between them. But anyways, this computer system is being input directly from his mind. So the superintelligence is some kind of telepathic or psionic or unknown electromagnetic ability to transport data from a human mind through the air into a computer system. The machine can also communicate directly into the child's mind. The ship, the alien ship, is communicating telepathically with the child. And those are more signs. And so, and I thought that part's interesting and funny. It's basically, think of any superhero, or superhero is just a branch of science fiction, really. Superhero powers. And in the Flight of the Navigator, that happens. The thing I do like about it, there's a lot of things, but the way that NASA in Flight of the Navigators is trying to figure out what this UFO that crash landed, what is it? They're studying it. It's kind of like Area 51, right? And they have it all chained up inside of this lab, right? Like studying, like a Roswell secret black site run by the U.S. government. What this thing is, they have no idea what it is. They don't know how it operates. They can't cut into it. That's another thing. You have a super intelligence when you are able to make a seamless material that is impenetrable by blowtorches, diamond drills, bombs, nuclear bombs. Independence Day, that's what happens. You can't even nuke your way past the outer shell of the alien invaders. In the movie with Jeff Goldblum and Paul, what's his face? The guy that gives the America the greatest country in the world in the July 4th speech. Bill Pullman. Is it Bill Pullman? Bill Pullman. Anyways, I don't know. I don't care. In this, it's a very similar kind of alien ship. It's like an almond flying donut saucer thing. And so the alien ship is impenetrable. It cannot be opened. It is mysteriously levitating. Levitation, very important. That's how you know you have a super intelligent indigenous civilization, because you have levitation technology. So I mean, to briefly go back to where's my Neo? Oh, goddamn! I closed my Neofeud picture. But like in Neofeud, right? You have in Neofeud there are, of course, right, levitating objects. You have levitating. Here's another one from Neofeud. You have levitating palaces. You have levitating, skyliners, levitating golf courses, levitating. Everything that's levitating is rich people stuff, though, right? Levitating yachts, levitating inverted pyramid skyscrapers with 18 holes that you can play with Mike Pompeo and all of the Project for New American Century people and Elon Musk. Levitating palaces, levitating cities. I mean, nice, rich people. Taipei's and just the city of London, not the East End and not Stratford upon Hull. So Neofeud, the levitation though, and I'm gonna try not to spoil it, but all the technologies in Neofeud that are like beyond what is conceivable in modern Western science, are important, and in Neofeud 2. And as I said, all of the greatest advancements in science, whether it's black powder, or that's paper, or that's fusion, or that's the greatest quantum supercomputers that can crack entire viral pandemic simulation assessments, weatherological patterns, international geopolitical conflict, all of the greatest scientific advancements, kicking COVID-19, stopping global pandemics, all of the greatest scientific advancements are indigenous. And that includes the levitation technologies and other technologies in Neofeud. But that's I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But anyways, so So when you have levitation, that's a symbol in the mainstays of tropes of science fiction. Levitating spaceship, right? Levitating. That's why everything in Star Wars is levitating, right? That's why, you know, like that's why it's all hover bikes, you know, in Star Wars, because it's cool science fiction shit. It doesn't have wheels. It has some kind of mysterious anti-gravity that we don't know, we don't care. It's just cool shit, man. Cool levitating shit. But I mean, it's also a thing you could do. I mean, here's something you might not know. Did you know, speaking of super advanced indigenous civilizations, did you know that the Chinese have invented levitating hover bikes and Anakin Skywalker's speeder? Did you know that? I'm just kidding. They didn't really invent it, but the Chinese have invented an artificial moon. They have an artificial sun. So, you know, like Pokemon Sun and Moon, the rabbit and the moon is very important for their mythology. But you know what else? The Chinese have invented an artificial moon. They already made a sun that has 120 million degree macro tokamak controlled plasma fusing deuterium, tritium, and hydrogen atoms into helium by fusing the electrons, protons, and neutrons of atomic particles, and creating infinite clean energy. But you know what else they did? They have artificial moons for gravity experiments. And so what this actually is, I mean, just kind of another aside. So the Chinese already have Neofeud technology. You know, the America is over there trying to figure out how to keep its Boeing 737s in the air without crashing over Malaysia and other African countries and African countries, and killing hundreds of people, losing $40 billion. You know, the F-35s of the United States military, they can't even keep them in the goddamn air, and they have to take them all offline. The USS Gerald Ford can't fucking fire with its Elon Musk-esque railgun cannon into the air, and that's why there are F-35s that are crashing into the ocean in the South China Sea right now. But what's happening here? That's what it is. Anyways, but the Chinese actually have artificial moons. So scientists have built an artificial moon that will enable low gravity environments using magnetism. So the facility slated for official launch will use powerful magnetic fields inside a 2-foot diameter vacuum to make gravity disappear. So this is anti-gravity. The Chinese are being modest. What the Chinese have done, they have invented Anakin Skywalker's science fictional speeder. Well, the Chinese have, because they don't talk, they just do, right? The Chinese have invented anti-gravity while you were trying to figure out that ivermectin and pissing in your eye doesn't work. They've already fucking invented Star Wars technology. Anyway, using powerful magnetic fields in a 2-foot diameter vacuum chamber to make gravity disappear, the scientists were inspired by an earlier experiment that used magnets to levitate a frog. So they've levitated frog. They've made gravity disappear, is the takeaway. Okay, I mean, of course, it takes a lot of energy and it's not free. But when the fusion comes online and they have infinite free energy, they're gonna be levitate. They're gonna levitate the Chinese. Now the Chinese would levitate their entire continent off of Earth to get away from all you bonkers ass Westerners that are destroying everything. But the Chinese don't have a dualistic Earth heaven binary, and so they don't care to leave. They don't care to become the greatest GDP in the world. They explicitly said, the foreign minister said, we don't want to surpass the United States. We have no interest in surpassing the United States as the number one country, the number one economy. We only seek to fulfill the needs of the Chinese people. And if incidentally that happens, we don't really care. It's not anything to celebrate. Actually, they are kind of saying GDP growing is not the most important thing. What matters is where the wealth that's being built is being distributed is more important than the GDP. You know, but the West is like, well, I mean, I would take all the money, give it to myself and the top 1%, because that's what we do in America and Europe, right? Why aren't you just happy you have the biggest GDP and fuck everyone else like we do? That's a lot. The West is trying to deal with an indigenous way of looking at reality, which is not the royalty separate from the humans, and the humans and the royalty separate from animals and plants, and the animals and plants, and somewhere down there is the water, you know, and the water, and who the fuck cares about the lakes and the rivers and the ocean, right? except like you should, otherwise you don't have life. The Chinese are like, no, we invented artificial gravity, but we're not going to leave Earth until Earth is fixed. Because we don't want to upload into our apocalyptic death cult heaven. It's very important. There's no like there's not death cults in China going, oh yeah, we're all going to go up to heaven with millions and millions and millions of half the goddamn country wrapped up in these beliefs that we're all going to go to heaven very soon and disbelieve in science. There's no anti-vax. There's no anti-mask rally. That's why they have like a much higher COVID vaccination rate than you. Same thing for Vietnam. There's no anti-vax. There's no anti-mask. There's no let's burn this whole fucking thing. You know, there's none of that bullshit. I mean, you can practice different religions, but and the West uses the crackdowns on Christianity in Vietnam and China to say they're against they have no freedom of religion. They're authoritarian. You can practice a religion, but if your religion is filled with wrong stuff that's hurting people and the planet, they won't let you. You know, like if you have a far right religion that's getting people killed and starting color revolution is trying to topple the government that's providing for the needs of the people. The rest of the people don't want that, you know? They don't want that. You know? It's kind of like, think of how America responded to just a handful of terrorists coming at New York and Washington, right? Now imagine there were thousands of terrorist attacks all over the country, right? You can't imagine that because, you know, you have too much American privilege, but I mean that's what happened in Xinjiang. Actually, there's like thousands of fucking attacks all over the place, you know. And then they didn't respond by blowing up every Muslim on earth like America is still doing. They responded by meeting the needs of the people and trying to stop them from believing wrong things, like we should cut off the heads of women if their appearance is different from mine, we'll cut their head off. If any mom takes one sip of alcohol, we should shoot him in the street, which is what the extremists were doing. ETIM, funded by the United States in China. And the Chinese said, we're not going to respond by killing. We're not going to respond by blowing up every Muslim country and going to Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, 7 countries, 5 years with the neocons that run the US. They just said, let's like help the people. Let's be even better to the people. Like, let's like help the people even more. And let's be even more harmonious. Like let's get the people like twice as better off. And then also like teach them about why hating other people for arbitrary characteristics is bad, you know? I mean, America, how many Americans could use some goddamn like, hey, hating other people because their skin is a different color, it's called CRT. You know, CRT is just like, it's not even re-education because there's never been any education in the Western world. CRT is just like, hey, it's just a little bit of like, hey, don't be like, there's a history of you hating and killing people based on arbitrary characteristics. It's called racism, motherfucker. That you still have, it's killing people all the time, including in the street, and all your prison system is full of black and brown people. CRT is like a little bit of like re-education for, you know, racist extremists. It's called America. And America's like, fuck that, then ban it. You know? You know what they didn't do in Xinjiang? They didn't ban like basic de-radicalization. Like America is just a radical fucking country that needs to all be de-radicalized. But you can't, if you tell anybody that, they're like, you're suppressing my freedom from tyranny, which is to be a racist white man. You're making a white man uncomfortable. You make a white man uncomfortable by even opening your mouth and saying that one time you were hurt by racism. And they will like fucking start entire riots and fucking overthrow the entire country, you know? A black man becomes president, and half the country is like, oh my, he's not even like the good president that liberates black people. He's just a black guy that recuperates the empire. And the whole country is over there like blowing the goddamn Capitol. It's a fear of white people not being the majority is what, to be clear, is what is unites all of the Capitol rioters, the MAGA, the Tucker Carlson fans, the conservatives, the major push behind the Republicans. It's fear of great replacement, literal Nazi shit. But America's a Nazi country, so. And then you know, there's other places that make art. You know, what are you wasting all your energy allowing horrible, racist, inter-ethnic and inter-religious strife to rip your society apart? Like, I mean, America is just doing what Europe has always done, which is have, you know, Protestant Catholic strife, right? You know, everybody frothing at the mouth to kill each other. I mean, they're doing it even more in Europe. There's Protestant Catholic fighting each other. French, British, French, German, British, Prussian, Ottoman, French, right? Roman Catholic Church versus Anglican Church, right? Holy Roman French and Spanish versus the, Spanish versus the French and Spanish. America, the Nordic people coming down, and then getting into shit with the Danish and the Danish, the Germans, and the French and the Spanish. And World War I is all the colonizers cutting the world up and then fighting over their colonies. And then World War II is like, let's blow the whole fucking planet up and bring global fascism about. And then Japan accidentally bombed Pearl Harbor, and America is like, oh shit, we have to fight the Japanese. America would have been fine with a fascist planet, with Western white supremacy run by the U.S. in the Western Hemisphere, and in Europe, Nazi Germany and Nazi Britain running fascist Europe, and then crushing all of Russia and pushing into China, and Japan working with the whites for a period of time, coming into China, and Europe pushing into Russia, and white America would have been fine with slaves forever, coolies forever, Asian servants forever, indigenous people gone, erased, fully erased, and dead or in museums for white people to go, and then the Japanese and the French and the Japanese and the Germans and the Europeans and the British would eventually probably end up like in Man in High Castle, fighting over who gets to be in charge of all of this. But that is just that's a continuation of a system, right? That's a continuation of a system that's about privileging the richest and the most powerful and fomenting inter-ethnic and inter-religious strife for the 1%. The communists stopped the West from taking the entire earth and plunging it into an irretrievable, irrevocable abyss of hate, fascism, and capitalism. So you should really thank, every time you see a Chinese person or one of the Russian communists or anybody who fought on that side, you should be like, oh my God, thank you so much that we don't live in the literal hell that the West and the US is pretending to save the world from. The US is not saving anyone from everything. Ask the Ukrainians and ask the fucking people of Vietnam and ask most of the world. The US is trying to build a global fascist capitalist hellscape. That's why I said Neofeud is about a immortal, multi-trillionaire, interplanetary, fully automated luxury fascist capitalist rulers being barely thwarted temporarily by socialist, cyborg, half cyborg social workers, a delinquent ghetto robot kid, and a ex celebutante / princess trying to do socialism but doesn't know what she's doing because she was raised by rich white people. Anyways, so that's what Neofeud is actually about. Anyways, it's now 1:19. Okay, back. We're gonna finish up soon. So, in the flight of the Navigator, I keep getting off track from all these artificial suns. I keep thinking about artificial suns, and I'm like, I gotta make a fusion reactor now. We literally had the kids for STEM class. We were working on making a Scratch, MIT Scratch. It's a 2D game design. I used to teach 2D game design and 3D and virtual worlds design. He's making a 2D simulation of a Chinese tokamak magnetoplasm, super magnet toroidal contained plasma reactor for fusion. So we showed it to the parents too, the grandparents, and they were I think they were impressed. But anyways, so technologies that represent super advanced civilizations: levitation, right? Brain-computer interface, psionic telepathic interface, artificial. I mean, again, and I don't know how the fuck they levitated a frog, but somehow the Chinese levitated a frog, and now they're gonna levitate humans. So, things that are not accessible to the Western world because they haven't figured it out yet, and so and they never will because they suck. And so this artificial intelligence is a drone that's kind of freaking out all of the scientists at NASA because they can't understand, how come I can't cut into this? We can't drill into it. We can't blow it up. it's just mysteriously like levitating. In Independence Day, same thing happens. Mysteriously levitating ship is just floating in the air. It's made of an unknown material. When they try to finally break in, it's actually the kid. It has actually. I think there's a Neofeud. You know, like in Neofeud, there's that ship, right? It's mysteriously kind of levitating in the air, and then it has stairs that come out of it. Like, I don't know if you remember this. If you played the game, there's these stairs that come out of that levitating ship. I don't want to tell you too much about it in case you didn't play it, but the stairs come out of the ship. They just like materialize out of nowhere, and they are also mysteriously just like hovering in the air. I think I was subconsciously thinking about the flight of the Navigator. I'm thinking about it now. I hadn't seen this show since I was like a little kid, like less than 10, right? There's the stairs, the liquid metal stairs, right, that come out of the ship like this, right? And they're just like, I don't know if you can't really see it there, but these stairs are like just levitating. They come out of the back of the ship, and they are hovering in midair, like this. There, you see that? And I think I was subconsciously remembering Flight of the Navigator when I was designing this craft. That also it's a space-time craft. Let's put it that way. So it goes through space and time, as does the Navigator ship. So they're like, what the? How is this possible? These things are just floating in the air. You know, the kid goes in and it's like discovers, okay, we have to complete our mission. I mean, I have to complete my mission, and there's a lot of plot stuff. Who really cares? But it's really like the kid has data, like maps of the universe, inside of his head, and the machine needs the maps to return to his planet, and the machine also has to return the kid, the Earth specimen, safely back to his home. And so, and you know, they fly around the world, going, you know, like Mach 10, just shooting, you know, going into the bottom of the ocean, running away from, you know, U.S. military copters, and NASA's chasing him around. He goes to Tokyo, he goes to France, he goes to the West and East Coast in, you know, in a mere minutes, because it's moving super fast, right? You know, and so, but the thing that I like about that is kind of like how the way that the NASA scientists are looking at the machine, and they can't figure out what is going on, like what is this thing? They're just like completely puzzled by it, and is the way that the United States and Europe and the Western world is looking at China right now, and it's going, what? How are they able to get their COVID so low, right? They must be lying about their numbers, right? How are they able to get artificial suns, right? The Pentagon chief, like I bring up often, right? They are the U.S. Pentagon chief quit because the Chinese cyber abilities are so advanced, right? That they make the United States cybersecurity look like kindergarten. I mean, and it's clear, like the quantum supercomputing is very important for cryptographic, cryptography, where keeping secure digital communications, right? And the Chinese have, as I already said, like a septillion times faster quantum supercomputer. It's not only for that. You can actually use quantum supercomputing can be used for meteorological analysis, complex system analysis, like weather, water, ecosystems, actually. And simulations, and that includes military simulations, by the way. So if you fall behind, if you're falling behind by a factor of 20 zeros, right? Septillion is a million, right? Times a million, right? Which is a trillion, right? Times another million, that's a quintillion. Times another million, that's septillion. So it's a million times a million times a million times another million, if I'm not mistaken. So if you're falling behind a million times a million times a million times a million times, and now your quantum computing can be broken, so they can make things that they can make messages. The Chinese can make messages that you can't even touch, but they can crack your messages. Your ability to do cybersecurity is suddenly greatly diminished relative to that more advanced indigenous civilization. And that's just one. AI, in terms of AI, they're much more advanced. Actual AI specialists are like the Chinese have automated, have concrete results, proof positive in robotic, big data based AI management of the biggest docks and ports in the world, fully roboticized. Train, parking, ecological analysis. AI is being rolled out usefully. That's very, as opposed to having canned TED Talks about Sophie the AI and somebody who looks like, America makes Hollywood bullshit about how it's good at AI and cybernetics, and Iron Man comes out in Spider-Man movies and saves the world with space drone launched. It's a lot of military tech that's not really helping anyone, right? And number one. Number two, the US military AI is not even close to as good. It's kindergarten shit compared to the Chinese. And so in that realm, they're also falling behind. And just one of the reasons why they're falling behind is because they're behind in quantum supercomputing. Why are they behind in quantum supercomputing? Because they take too much of their money and they privatize their industry. It's not the private. They just do Western barbaristic ways of doing science, which is running it for the oligarchs like Elon, Techno King. Why you call yourself Techno King, right? You're like making Neofeud literally mask off already. And you let him order around your artificial intelligence, your solar tech, your solar scientists, your engineers on self-driving cars, right? Your lidar specialists, and your actual vehicle designers that know how to make aerodynamic and also functional vehicles. And you're telling them how to do things, giving yourself too much money, giving them too little money, breaking their union so they're tired, working for less, disgruntled, not doing their best work, and then you're micromanaging them so that he demanded AI be in every. We have fully AI run auto plants that ended up wasting their time, and the cars are being produced half or as fast or less, and they had to be finally redone by humans. All because the person running the show is a mediocre cis white man and a descendant of feudal Euros. His name is Elon Musk. And so Elon is actually making America less technologically advanced in the entire West by wasting everyone's actual science, technology, engineering, and mathematical prowess and skills on useless things and misallocating resources, right? And that Elon is why I would argue Elon and Gates and the Kochs and Ray Benioff and Mr. Ellison and Oracle CEOs, all of Silicon Valley's elite that are supposedly the solutions to the world, are the reason why the US and the West is falling further and further and further and further behind. On top of it getting more unequal, on top of it just being horrible and unethical, and everybody fucking joining more unions and learning about socialism and communism and shit because, oh my God, this is horrific. This American capitalist and this Western capitalism is garbage, right? And, they're the reasons for their own failures. And the U.S. and the CIA and the U.S. ruling classes, political, economic, warmonger, Pentagon, all together, who all back this project, Captain America as the U.S. military in D.C., along with Iron Man, which is Silicon Valley, you together are wrecking yourselves, and that's also what Neofeud is about. But anyways, and so the reason why, I would argue that the reason why the U.S. is responding to China, if I just type China COVID, right? China taming COVID-19 makes exit strategy harder. China is making everything bad. China bad. China bad, bad, bad. China's success taming virus could make it. Oh my God. Oh my, look at this. Look, this is hilarious. Look, Portland Press Herald, Boston Globe, Los Angeles Times, right? VOA. Voice of America. If you don't know what VOA is, learn of what Voice of America, Voice of Vietnam. This is U.S. Imperial fucking cutout. That's what this is. It's this is the mouthpiece of the this is the hand pushing the buttons on the West's informational jukebox. Anyways, but okay, you type China. Let's just put China in there. All right, what are we gonna find? China anal swab, putting things in your butt. China is gonna anal probe you. So you're taking anal probing, which is Western homophobic. The same thing reason why you men gotta have short hair. Western queerphobic, anti-gay, broken culture being projected onto super advanced type 4 Kardashev set of civilizations, right? A more powerful entity coming to dominate you sexually, abduct you through a tractor beam into a flying saucer, and then anally do what is taboo and banned in your culture because you're a broken homophobic Western culture, called stick things in your butthole as a more powerful, because that's what because, well, I mean, that's what it's for. It's for domination. That's what anal sex is. It's about me showing dominion. Remember the word dominion? Me showing dominion over things that are lesser than me. You know, as opposed to just like part of enjoying other people's, part of just like relating and having sexual consensual engagements. It's about what? It's about domination. And so the alien is doing that because the alien is you projecting your Western capitalist, feudal, colonialist, Roman, British, American, French shitways into space, and then going, if aliens came to Earth, they would do what I do to everyone else around me, which is try to dominate and crush. And also, being gay is bad and banned as part of a heteropatriarchal cis heteropatriarchal system. And I'm secretly gay inside, but I can't express that because I live in a cis heteropatriarchal American capitalist shithole. So that's what they're gonna do to me, is the thing that I want to have done, but it's gonna be in a dominational way because my entire culture is premised upon mass organized violence and disinformation, and that's why aliens are probing people out in the middle of the Utah and Arizona desert. That's why they're doing that. That actually comes up in Neofeud 2 as well. In their Fortean projections into science fiction, it's because America hates gay people, along with all of the West. So, anyways, for the benefit of its selfish individualists, and especially their oligarchs. That's why. So, anyways, yeah. So you know, yeah. So we should probably get off because I got to go back on at 4. So, you know, you would be less surprised, you know, like, so the reason why you have to look at these saucers and you're like, oh my god, I can't understand. Oh my god, you know, how is, you know, China, you know, Huawei, oh my god, how they get 5G before us, you know, let's look at the news, you know, Hawaii needs chip money, US fights off pressure, Tony Podesta makes $1 million lobbying Biden, you know, they're politicizing it. Oh my god, this politician is working with China, that's evil, that's bad, right? Oh, you are a genocide doer because you helped China do a thing, and that means you love genocide. You're basically killing all the people in West China, right? Everything is politicized, right? You know, I mean, let's, you know, anything. U.S. scheme to catch Chinese spies, enabling what it tries to prevent. U.S. is the students are they're all spying on us. They're taking all our stuff. Asian American groups calling by to end. You know, they have a whole initiative where they're basically every day they're opening investigations on multiple Chinese students and professors in the universities to examine whether they're all fucking spies. You know, and so some people are like, oh my god, this is a threat to America's economy. But again, this is all shooting yourself in the foot, you know. But you're treating the space, you're treating the super advanced, you're treating a super intelligence. It's just called normal human intelligence collectively put together under indigenous socialism. You're treating that super intelligence as if it's like a horrible barbaric dominator, invader, crusher, killer, colonizer, you know. And so that's not what they are and what they want to do, but that's the way that they're viewing this even in the show. They're kind of viewing it. They're not the scientists that want to learn about it, but the military, obviously, in Independence Day, it's immediately right. Independence Day, the movie, the aliens are immediately a threat, and the way that the movie is set up is the way that the U.S. and the West has to set up the movie. Is the aliens are coming to do to America what America and the West has done to indigenous people across the world, right? Which is destroy them, take over them, dominate them, right? Stick things into their capitals and stick things into other parts that are unacceptable to their homophobic culture. That also comes up. Randy Quaid's character, literally, that's what happens to Randy Quaid in Independence Day. But if you didn't view things in this, conflict-based, mass conflict-based, I would actually, there's something to the structure of Western literature itself. The CIA has funded. So I was just reading about the CIA funding for all Western socialist movements, including socialist parties in France, Germany, all over Europe, you name it, Canada, Australia, obviously, and world parties, as a counter to the communist countries, to suggest, but actually, but these, and it explains a lot of the brokenness of the Western left. Is literally the U.S. ruling class just breaking its own Western left ability to maintain its coherence and to fight on it again for the U.S. empire, thinking it's fighting for left and for socialism, but it isn't. So the confusion is like, not to say there aren't some really idiotic Western leftists that are like just authentically wrong and just kind of crappy, but there also a lot of is in being infused there. But anyways, but if you can see past that stuff and you can get out of that, right, and not see China as this evil, scary thing that's going to come crush you, and it just is making advanced technology, right? One thing I do like about the Navigator is that the Phalon people that designed this drone ship that sent it, light years across the galaxy to get to Earth. They aren't there to kill and destroy everyone. They are there to just study, and they're not even there to alter the natural habitats or the specimens from the planets they're visiting. They're supposed to bring the specimen back exactly as it was and not alter it at all, right? And then go straight back to the planet. Only for research and knowledge, right? And that's also kind of like what that's similar to indigenous civilizations like the Chinese. They don't want to go up to America, turn America into China, make everyone speak Mandarin, they're not going to ban English, but that's what Americans are afraid of. In the same way they're afraid of everything, like what we're all talking about. The sexual violation. You the black indigenous people, you're going to do exactly what we did to you if you guys come into power, right? That is the fear that they back their fascism with, right? The fear of men disappearing. So there's only SJW, trans, something, non-binary. This fear, like the men are going to disappear, white people are going to disappear, white men especially going to disappear. Christianity is going to disappear. You're free to practice all these things, as long as you aren't harming people. In China and Vietnam, there's churches in. Not just South Korea, there's churches in China, there's churches in Vietnam. You can do that if you would like to, but you can't use it as a vector to harm, scam, promote right-wing extremist ideology within. That's the only thing you can't do. You can do other spiritual practices, but that's something that is utilized, right? So, against the populations of the West. So anyways, but all these technologies, and so the thing is, to my mind, like the West will never really get to that level of technology. They'll never really get to this level of technology if they can't get past this stuff. They're already going backwards. Like I said, the Boeing planes are crashing, F-35s are not even working. America is like losing knowledge. It's losing science technologists and personnel to other parts of the world. They're like, I don't want to work for the US if they're going to treat me like this. Teachers are leaving US and going to China because teachers are paid enough to starve. You're losing the personnel, you're losing the talent, and even the knowledge itself. And you're losing the capacity to connect with the places of the world that have the most advanced technologies and achievements. The more that you insist on belligerently attacking, the advanced indigenous alien civilizations. So anyway, I know I make this point all the time, but it's important to always bring up because it's easily forgotten in the wave of anti-China hysteria, the wave of anti-China, anti-Russia, anything left of Biden. In the wave of the anti-China hysteria goes along with the doomering and apocalyptic prognostications that are centering the West, the US, Europe, etc. And that has to also be remembered, which is that, like, if the US and Europe and their allies can, like, come in peace, like the super advanced indigenous alien civilization, right, that is coming in peace and wants to win-win cooperate. They don't want conflict like Blinken and Biden keeps yelling about. If they can come in peace, then there could be sharing of all of this technology, and there can be we indigenous peoples have the solutions to all of these problems. And if we don't have them now, we can have we are the ones that will have them soon, if anyone will. You've dug a lot of holes for us to get out from under with the climate change, the industrial destruction, the colonialism, the racism, all these things, the COVID-19 that you are still, sure, you're still the number one purveyors of that. But, we can still solve these problems, but you're going to make it a lot harder if you want to continue to lie about indigenous peoples of the world, and who are indigenous, by the way. If you continue to try to start wars with them, if you are allowed yourself to be led by the nose and Pied Pipered into war, conflict, even not just war, just hostility and non-cooperation, you yourself are making this successful, advanced, cooperative solar. Some people call it solar punk, but solar punk is a very Euro conception. But what amounts to a better, not perfect, but a better, livable, sustainable world, right? That is kind of like what is envisioned in solar punk. If you want to get there, it has to begin with coming in peace towards the indigenous, formerly colonized, socialist peoples of the world. Any of them run by communist parties, and not being pissed off that they have better technology than you, or that we have better technology than you, not freaking out and screaming that you're stealing our technology because we have artificial suns, artificial moons, anti-gravity, super. Every day I come out, it's like a new science fiction technology is invented by the Chinese. I'm like, you go, people that are also relatives of all of my ancestors, because I'm Asian and Pacific Islander. And it's like, don't be mad that they can do that. Let them help navigate all of us towards a better world. And that's why part of, like, as a Hawaiians, we were the master navigators. One of our indigenous technologies, right, was of course Hawaiian and Pacific Islander navigation and wayfinding, right? It's Kilo Hoku, or this is a work, Ho'okele. The ways of finding your way in 1/3 of the Earth's surface is a huge. The ocean is a lot like a desert, like in Boba Fett, and so, and so part of what Hawaii can be for the world. This is the actual wayfinding chart that Hawaiians used with the help of one of our Pacific relatives, Maupii Island. And one of the things that one of the things that the Hawaiians can do, what I try to do is to help as somebody who is born and raised in legally occupied Hawaii, to be a American, white person inside, high frequency trading algorithm programmer for Goldman Sachs, but also like having connections to Hawaiian and Asian other cultures in the place which is the connection between East and West. Hawaii is very much a place that has an East-West center, and it had been a place for connection that is now being used for conflict between East and West because of Western barbarism. Speaking of navigation, but part of what the navigation in terms of like finding your way from a tiny half-mile long, 2-foot high speck of land called an atoll, Satawal, Ibai, the Marshall Islands, all the way to Hawaii, or Rapa Nui. It's also very small, very remote, separated by 1,000 miles in every direction. And so the ability to find your way is not always easy, as to be a navigator, to actually navigate, it can be very tricky. And you being lost in the woods, and there are a lot of people that are kind of lost in their woods. They're lost in space. They're lost in the CIA space. They're lost in their West space of we're all dying. We're all climate doomed. We're all, COVID doomed. We don't know what to do. We're burning and China bad, right? And finding the way out of that is a thing that's very difficult, not easy. It's not. I don't know exactly how everybody will find their way out of that. I do know that as many people as possible have to navigate their way out of that. And so if by sharing the stories of Asia and the Pacific and indigenous peoples and connecting them to random science fictional franchises, 80s action movies, Twisted Sister, and cool nerd shit like, fully automated luxury space, gay communism, and cyberpunk, cyberpunk robot kids. If all of that helps some people with little, if each one of those little bits of Silver Spook, passionate, high intensity education that's dovetailing off of other ones are the stars of ideological brain space, I hope that it can help some people to navigate out of that, because it is going to be a dark, hard journey for a lot of people. And I hope as minimally suffering and as minimally painful and as minimally environmentally destructive, although it looks like we're going to destroy Oahu's aquifers. Some of them are already destroyed. But the faster we can get on the right track, the better, But then you gotta listen to, you gotta listen to the floating giant eyeball with a light bulb inside that can speak 10,000 languages, travel across the world and travel across the universe and thousands of years through time, and has been to every place in the galaxy and back. You have to listen to it a little bit and not ignore it, because it can help you learn how to. Because part of it is the Navigator thing. The Navigator Trimaxian or Max does help the main character, the white American boy, to find his way through the wilderness of being a 12-year-old lost white American, or a 36-year-old lost white American, as countless people are today. Anyways, that's the end of the stream, because I gotta go. I'm gonna be back at 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock Pacific time. So that's in a couple hours. I gotta go eat food and do stuff. For my birthday stream, if you would like to come, that will be on the Twitch channel. That's at the Twitch channel, 7 Pacific time. And Neofeud is the game that does support everything that we do here. It is a game that you can find on Steam and on itch.io. It is a game that is not on sale right now. If you have a second to leave even a very short review, it is massively appreciated, because it does increase the likelihood that we will have the game discovered when people are browsing on on Steam and looking for games to play. So thanks a lot. If you can also get the game on You can also get Neofeud on itch.io for Windows, Mac, and Linux. It is a game that is also DRM free there. The maximum amount of revenue goes to us every time somebody buys it on itch because they have a better revenue split for the creators of the games. You can also find... I'm sorry, actually, I should probably bring up the other things. Decolonators is another game that you can get. That's where you play a Vietnamese communist woman kicking capitalist colonizer butts out of Vietnam. And it's only $3. So if you like retro arcade style platform games and want to kick capitalist colonizer asses, voiced by Luna Oi, our Vietnamese communist content creator, do consider checking out Decolonators. Also, if you would like, speaking of conservative Christianity and and the bogusness of a lot of ideas propagated through it, remember there's also a woman, which is a irreverent take on the Life of Mary by Holly, who is also in the chat there moderating as always for us, and we're very thankful for that. It's a book by Holly about a woman raised in evangelical Protestant Christianity. And so if you would like to check, that's also free, and you can support if you would like to by donating some money, and we're thankful for that. Also, you can follow us. You can support us in an ongoing way at patreon.com/Neofeud. I know everybody's short on cash nowadays because it's tough times for everybody, but you can support us at patreon.com/Neofeud. And that gives us an ongoing support for all the housing, feeding, clothing, making games, and doing education that we do here. Doing indigenous left education that we do here on the streams and elsewhere. And also, you can get access to the Neofeud 2 updates and other game updates and things that we're doing at the Silver Spook Hui. And you can also get access to the Silver Spook Discord and hang out with other friends of the Silver Spook world. And you can also follow us at Silver Spook Games at octodon.social. Oops. Okay. You can also follow at Silver Spook Games at octodon.social. Octodon is on Mastodon, which is a decentralized, non-capitalist, federated, open source social media platform like Twitter, without billionaires, Wall Street, the Pentagon, and Silicon Valley deciding what you see and what you don't see. However, while we have access to the Death Star satellites, which does control what you see and what you don't see, you can also follow us on Twitter at SilverSpookGuy. And that's, if you would like to follow, that's mostly like my personal takes on stuff. And for games related stuff like Neofeud, Neofeud 2, and other games that I'm working on, when they come out, when they go on sale, follow Silver Spook Games minus the Ian Silver. Like this is like an update from Neofeud 2. Handcrafted oil stains, modular door design, a mosaic of artisanal rust rash make the McFly 85 the ideal surf driver vehicle for shuttling $30 coffees of wealthy pure humans. Show up to your next eviction or breadline in style. Anyway, so that's like Neofeud is very satirical, biting comedy / seriousness in and Neofeud 2 is similar. So that's a screenshot from Neofeud 2. You can also follow Terminus C. Terminus C is Terminus Cyberstar's Twitter handles, which is a game that is another cyberpunk game I'm working on as the content director / lead writer. It's a Deus Ex System Shock Cyberpunk 2077 sort of game that's made by a handful of artists, programmers, writers, musicians, level designers, etc. And I'm the lead content designer on this game. If you want to know when this game comes out and see other updates on this game that's having trouble loading the video right now, you can find... let's see if it's going to load. Having trouble loading. You can find Terminus Cyberstar on Twitter at Terminus C, and it's also available it's at Terminus C. And you can also join the Discord for Terminus Cyberstar if you so choose with that link there. Finally, thank you so much to all the people that have supported us. It is greatly appreciated as always. Thanks so much to all these people here for your continued support. And we're just going to leave it up there for a second because, I'm not going to say all the names, but thanks to all these people, and thanks a lot everybody for listening and watching, and thanks Holly for again moderating. Don't forget we're having the birthday stream later on today, and yeah, keep your mirror shades polished, be excellent to each other, and keep your you know, do your best to navigate and listen to your indigenous super intelligences. Help you navigate. All right, that's the end of the stream.